Chair.
Thank you very much, Chief. Good evening. My name is Jason Perot, Chairman of the Northborough Board of Selectmen, and I call to order this April 12th, 2021 meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order, which I may have already said. This open meeting of the Northborough Board of Selectmen is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the Governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which is referenced at the top of our posted agenda for tonight's meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. This meeting is being conducted remotely using the Zoom conferencing application. Our posted meeting agenda notes the various means by which the meeting can be viewed. You can view it with a live stream link on YouTube, which you can find going to the town website and looking for the remote meeting button. You can connect to the Zoom webinar link using the Zoom application, as shown on the agenda. You can dial in for audio only connection to the Zoom meeting at the number listed on our agenda, or you can view the meeting on cable access, television, government channels, Verizon 30 and Charter 192. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Be aware that other folks may be able to see you. Take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. I'd like to now go over some ground rules for the meeting for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each agenda item and its speaker. After the speaker concludes the presentation, I will invite board members to offer their comments, questions, or motions. If the agenda item is a public hearing, I will invite public comments specific to that matter at that time. Please raise your hand to be recognized and hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you. If members wish to respond to other members, please request to do so through the chair. Finally, because we are meeting remotely, each vote will be taken by roll call. I'd like to now confirm access by the members of the board and town staff who will be participating throughout the meeting. Board members, when I call your name, please unmute and respond in the affirmative. My name is Jason Perot, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. Tim Kalin, Vice Chair.
Present.
Leslie Rutan, Clerk.
Present.
Julianne Hirsch, Member.
Present.
And Scott Rogers, Member.
Also present.
And town staff members, when I call your name, please unmute and respond in the affirmative. Town Administrator John Coder.
Present.
Assistant Town Administrator Becca Meekins.
Present.
Public Works Director Scott Charpentier.
Present.
Police Chief William Liber.
Present.
And Fire Chief and Zoom host for our meeting, David Parenti.
Present.
We also have the services of Northborough Cable Access to provide communication of our meeting tonight. We will confirm additional remote participants at the time they are brought into the meeting for their respective agenda items. And I will review the details about participating in public comment when we reach that point on our agenda. So with that, we can begin. First item is the approval of the March 22nd, 2021 meeting minutes. Board members, you have that the draft minutes in your meeting packets. Do I have a motion? Leslie?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the March 22nd, 2021 meeting minutes of the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Moved by Leslie Rutan, seconded by Scott Rogers. Any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Scott Rogers?
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch?
I have to abstain. I was not present at the meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, Julianne. That's right. Right. Forgot. Sorry. Abstention by Julianne. Leslie?
Aye.
Tim Kalin?
Aye.
And I, Jason Perot, vote aye. So that's carries with 4 affirmative and 1 abstention. It's past the hour of 7 o'clock. We have a public hearing to consider an application to transfer the all alcoholic beverages restaurant license and the common victualler and entertainment licenses from Tavern in the Square Northborough LLC to JBS Food Enterprise LLC, doing business as the Neighborhood Tavern, for premises located at 318 Main Street. Chief, I believe we have, should have Davidson Botero and Andrew Upton as our participants.
Yep, I'll bring them right in.
Thank you, Chief.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Andrew Upton, present.
Good afternoon, or good evening, Mr. Upton, thank you. Davidson Botero, if you could unmute and give us a voice acknowledgement so we know you are in communication.
Yep.
There you are. How you doing?
Very good.
We have your application to transfer these licenses. The applications have been reviewed and everything seems to be in order. Perhaps you could just give a description of your plan for operating the business at that location?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Andrew Upton for the applicant. And with me is Davidson Botero, the proposed manager of record and also co-owner of the applicant. We believe there's an established public need at this location for a liquor license. I think that's a minor point. The Broadway Hospitality Group has done a good job there over the years. As you know, they've been closed due to COVID, but we believe it's a good location. They've had a good record there. And we are proposing very few changes to the location. It'll be the same footprint, the same building. Our goal is to come in and refresh with a little paint and paper, improve the quality of food, but really have the same basic operation as a community comfort food chef-driven restaurant that it was before. Just a brief note on the character and fitness of the applicant. Mr. Botero and Mr. Rosa are experienced operators. They've got a good record in Cambridge. They've got a good history in the food and beverage business over the years. I can tell you they bought Tavern on the Square in Cambridge, the same way they're attempting to buy Tavern on the Square here in Northborough. They bought the Cambridge one about 4 years ago. They've been running it as a neighborhood spot for about 4 years. They did the exact same thing. They kept the basic operation. They cleaned it up. They went to a scratch kitchen where they make all the food instead of using frozen products off the truck. And I really believe the best example of what they can do here in Northborough is based on what they've already done in Cambridge. They bought a similar restaurant from the same seller, and they've proven the concept. It's popular, it's safe, it's doing well even in this economy, and they're looking to do it in Northborough. They're putting up their own money for this. Davidson, if approved, will be the manager on site full-time, and we're all very excited about the concept. With that, I'd like to have Davidson have a quick introduction of himself, and we'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Great, thank you. Davidson, please proceed.
Hello, everyone. It's just to explain to you guys how excited we are to trying to get into their location. We managed to get one of their locations here in Cambridge. We're doing real well with that location. I've been working restaurants since I came into the United States in 1998, from dishwasher to owner-operator right now. I worked for the Tavern in the Square back in the days, and it's just how excited we are. I've been running this location here in Cambridge for 4 years now, very familiar with all the liquor license obligations, and I think we can perform well. We see a great opportunity over there, and looking forward to move in, and I'm here to answer any questions you guys may have.
All right, thank you very much. Certainly has been a popular location while it was operating as Tavern in the Square, and I'm sure people look forward to having it up and operating again. So I would note on the application that Detective Sergeant Brian Griffin of the Northborough Police Department did the appropriate background checks and has no concerns to report with respect to Mr. Rosa and Mr. Patero for owning and operating a restaurant, and Mr. Patero serving as manager. Mr. Patero, there is, I did notice one item on the application, I'm sorry, I'm scrolling to it here. There was one item for prior disciplinary action dating back to July of 2019, which was a overcrowding situation at the Cambridge location. Can you just speak to that, explain a little bit about the circumstances there?
Yes, that was the Game 7 of the Bruins Stanley Cup run. And I think they noticed there were like 20 people over, but we have the patio open at that day. There was people moving from the patio to the inside, and we have a private security company at the door, and the security that was holding the clinic acknowledged his mistake in not controlling the back and forth of people going to the bathrooms and all that. And we really went through a probation of 6 months after that, and everything was clear since then.
Yes, it seems to show on the record that, right, there's no adverse action in regard to that. So, very good. Members of the board, do you have any other questions? Leslie?
Hi, thank you, Andrew and Davidson, both for your presentations. Lots of very good information. Thank you so much, and thank you for wanting to do business here in Northborough. It is a great spot, very popular, especially with kids who graduated from Algonquin Regional High School and come back and visit and like to hang out there. So very happy and happening place. So thank you very much for wanting to be here. And I do like to state the sentence in the letter here saying that from Detective Sergeant Brian Griffin saying that you are Mr. Patero, certified in tips, serve safe, CPR, and been through crowd manager training. All of that's great stuff. I appreciate knowing that. And just wanted to confirm the layout is going to stay the same. The patio outside will be the same setup, same arrangement. And can you tell us a little bit about your menu?
My menu is, I'm a big believer you cannot reinvent a tavern or so-called a sports-driven location. We do really well here in Cambridge with the fan favorites like a good section of appetizers and the soups, the salads, a good section of entrees. Just basically the food between, I would say between $15 and $25 is going to be on that range. We cannot play with the $30, $40 items. I think we're pushing on that way. I just trying to repeat what we do here in Cambridge. We're doing really good, even with the pandemic. Really well. I think our numbers here are better than before COVID.
Wow.
That's what you're looking forward to do in Northborough.
That's wonderful. And I applaud that. I know it's been difficult. So terrible time for all restaurant operators. So thank you very much. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's great to hear that you started in the industry and have worked your way up to owner-operator. With my experience, I've done a lot of work with breweries and distributors in and around town, and it is a very tough industry. And I know Cambridge is an incredibly competitive market, so to do well in that market and have enough success to look to expand says a lot about you as a manager and an owner. So congratulations on your success. And like everybody said, the location is great. Northborough and you know, obviously we welcome people that know what they're doing to come into town and do business. So it will be great to have you. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you, Tim. John, yes?
Yeah, I normally don't comment on these, but I just have to say how pleased I am. This is probably our most visible business closure during COVID. And to see this venue reopen again, very popular, is exciting for everybody. So very big, very positive to see this happen. My only question really is, do you have a timeline? Because that's the question we're gonna get calls about is, when do you think you're gonna be reopening?
We're waiting for the approval of the ABCC returning to us. And from that point on, I mean, I'm already working some decorating items. Everything's it's already all set. I'm just waiting to start ordering everything as tomorrow. And it's just the time for the liquor license and maybe a week or two after that. The place does not need a lot of stuff inside. There's a beautiful location inside. You know, I'm planning even on next Thursday, you're going there with the paint. We're going to start doing some stuff inside. But
The ABCC has told us to expect a turnaround of 30 to 40 days. So if we are successful tonight, I think that will give us enough confidence to get in there and start some stuff and hopefully push the ABCC along to speed their process.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Leslie?
I just have one of Andrew, actually. Do you feel that because of the pandemic and the difficulties that restaurateurs have been facing, that the ABCC is maybe going to be a little bit more active in getting some momentum going with these?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, our firm has a good relationship with the ABCC, and I have qualified Davidson and the owners before with them. As you know, a lot of their work is doing the background check and checking the financing. So I'll be glad to get with them as soon as the application gets to them and try to push it along as best I can.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone among the attendees of this meeting who wish to be recognized and speak on this licensing matter? Seeing none. I always forget this part. Do I need a motion to close the hearing? Yes. Do I have a motion to close the hearing? Leslie?
Chair, I move that we close the hearing.
Second.
Moved by Leslie Rattan, seconded by Julianne Hirsch to close the public hearing. This is a roll call vote. Scott Rogers,
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch,
Aye.
Leslie Rattan,
Aye.
Tim Kalen,
Aye.
and I, Jason Perot, vote aye. The hearing is closed. Do I have a motion with respect to the license application?
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to approve the application to transfer the all alcoholic beverages restaurant license as well as the entertainment and communal particular licenses from Tavern in the Square LLC to JBS Food Enterprises LLC, DBA, the Neighborhood Tavern, for premises located at 318 Main Street, with the condition that the licensee receive satisfactory inspections from the building, fire, and health departments.
Second.
Moved by Tim Kalen, seconded by Leslie Rattan. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Scott Rogers,
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch,
Aye.
Leslie Rattan,
Aye.
Tim Kalen,
Aye.
and I, Jason Perot, vote aye. Carries unanimously. So congratulations. You have the approval, and we certainly look forward to seeing the rest of the preparations play out and see the business up and operating. So
Thank you
good
very
luck
much.
and congratulations. Yep.
thank you very much, everyone.
Thank
We
you.
look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next item, past the hour of 7:03. Dean, I'm going to pronounce it Catan, doing business as Fatouche Grill and Bakery. To consider an application for a common victual license as submitted by Dean Catan, DBA Fatouche Grill and Bakery, for premises located at 10 Blake Street. Welcome, Mr. Catan. If you could unmute.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, how you doing?
Very good, very good.
We have the application in front of us, and perhaps you could first maybe describe your plans for operating the business.
Absolutely. So it's going to be a Mediterranean grill and bakery. We're going to offer technically all authentic Mediterranean dishes, such as Syrian dishes, Lebanese, from Turkey too. We have a very well-known cook among our community here, which is handling the cooking operation in the building. We are 3 partners. We're going to be operating the business. I came from a restaurant background too. We have roasted peppers in Leominster and in Maynard. This is going to be a little new gig for us as a Mediterranean. I have other pieces of Mediterranean dishes, so it's going to be a new thing for the town, I believe. I don't think you guys have anything like that in the town of Northborough. We're very excited. Just waiting on a couple things here and there, but we're pretty ready to go for it.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions by members of the board? Leslie?
First of all, thank you very much. It's very exciting, I'm sure, for you and for us. It'll be nice to have something there again at that location, kind of near the center of town, and there's usually plenty of parking.
Great.
Will the restaurant layout change inside, and do you foresee any changes along that at all, or will it remain the same?
Very minor changes. So we needed to extend the hood and ventilation system. So what we did, we are going to replace the system with a new one, 11-foot hood and ventilation system. That's what we're going to need for the location. Also, we're going to do some minor decoration inside the building. Nothing really major inside the building, except for, like I said, replacing the hood system and ventilation system. That's it.
Very good. Any other questions? Scott Rogers.
Yeah, just ask a little bit more about the menu and what you're looking to serve.
Sure. So, well, I don't know if you guys know anything about any Lebanese dishes, but all the good stuff that you hear about, I guess. The kibbeh, the kebab, all the grilled stuff that you hear about. But like I said, I don't think there is any place in Northborough that serves the same meals. That's why we're very excited. Like I said, I have Mohammed here. He's a well-known cook among our community. He's going to drive people from Boston, from Connecticut. So you're going to see a lot of new faces in that area, I'll tell you that.
Excellent. That sounds great.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Leslie.
Well, I like Mohammed already. He's been waving at us from behind you, so I think he's very excited about this whole endeavor.
Yes.
You also mentioned some bakery items, did you say? So there'll be some baked goods?
Yeah, of course. So, such as the pies, like the spinach pies, the cheese, the meat pies, and all that stuff that you find at a Mediterranean restaurant. It's going to be served in our restaurant too.
Wonderful. That sounds fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move the board vote to approve the application for a common victualler license as submitted by Dean Catan, doing business as Fatouche Grill and Bakery for premises located at 10 Blake Street, with the condition that the licensee receives satisfactory inspections by the building, fire, and health departments.
Second.
Moved by Julian Hirsch, seconded by Scott Rogers. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Scott Rogers.
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch.
Aye.
Leslie Rattan.
Aye.
Tim Kalin.
Aye.
And I, Jason Perot, vote aye, so that carries unanimously. Congratulations and welcome, and we look forward to enjoying.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
now past the hour of 7:05 p.m. and we have Kristen Black, Health Agent, for an update on the Regional Vaccination Clinic, Public Health Excellence Grant Program for Shared Services.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Selectmen. Really excited to be here. I'm over at the Doubletree Hotel right now, preparing for our clinics that are starting this week. So it's real. We have lots of computers in the back and all the rest. So it's really exciting times. So overall, the regional clinic, there was a press release that went out today. So many of you, if you're signed up for the town news, may have seen that. Big thanks to Becca for her help with that on very short notice. Like 2 hours is the usual I'm giving everybody lately to respond and take action, and also our town clerk for pushing that out. So the update is on Friday. We learned the state awarded us 1,500 doses of Moderna to officially start our first week at the vaccine clinic. So we'll be administering those starting on Wednesday in 2 days' time, Wednesday through Friday. So the clinic is, again, just to remind everybody, it's a regional collaboration with a total of 7 communities, Northborough being one of them. So we've sort of served as the lead with the application and also securing the facility rental. And then we have our 6 other communities supporting us as well. So it's Ashland, Boylston, Holliston, Hopkinton, Southborough, and Westborough. I hope I got them all, and that should have been 6. And so members from these community health departments, fire departments, and even other town administrators, et cetera, have been working together on Zoom and also at the site over the recent days, dropping off supplies and setting things up. So it's actually been a really rewarding team environment, a great way to work with our neighbors and our colleagues to pull this all together. Just as a general reminder, the way the state of Massachusetts works is these regional vaccination sites is 75% of the doses are going to be pre-filled or automatically registered through the state's pre-registration system. And then the remaining 25% of the doses, all of the participating towns are able to sort of withhold those for special populations or for our residents. So, for example, this week, each town received a private link with 60 appointments. And so that link, that private link, was distributed it was included in the memo that went out on the town news. It's also, posted on the town website. It was emailed to everybody who has signed up for the COVID-19 vaccine notifications, that constant contact list. So I know 60 appointments does not go very far. The demand is huge to the entire population. Anybody 60 and over will become eligible starting next week, on the 19th. So anyway, more appointments will be added each week. The link will be consistent. It will be the same link, but if you log in now, those appointments were taken very quickly. But we will be adding those appointments, and more information will be coming as to when those may be posted and what that looks like. But again, we're just reminding everybody in general to pre-register on the state's website. So many of you may have heard of friends that did get the email that said, an appointment is available for you. You have 24 hours to claim the appointment. And now you'll see that our location here at the Doubletree Hotel in Westborough is one of the locations you can choose from when you get that appointment stating you're next in line and you are eligible. So I don't know if you have any questions about the regional clinic you'd like answered before I talk about the public health excellence grant.
Awesome.
Thank you, Kristen. And you were right. You had thought it would be right around now, I think, that the regional clinic would be getting going. So thank you for all your efforts in that. I think that's terrific. A lot of people looking forward to that. One comment I saw somewhere, and I forget where, was that someone said, I have my second dose scheduled elsewhere. Now that I see that there's a clinic nearby, I'm going to see if I can switch my second dose to the regional one. Is that something that people should do? Is that recommended? What do you think about that?
Yeah, right now you wouldn't have the ability to switch. And so you can only really register with our clinic for first dose appointments. So at this time, it's only people that have been vaccinated here at this site will have access to register for a second dose. It's not to say, we've had many different, difficult situations come across the health department office where I went to a clinic and now they're closed and what do I do? And those sort of things. So we just don't have that much supply right now. So we are pushing anyone, if you have an appointment, please keep it. If you can't make it for a reason, there is the ability to reschedule using the 211 call center through the state, and they have the ability to see all of these sites. So there may be the ability for us to be booked through that. But at this point, our allocation is very small overall as to compare to those other sites. So we'd recommend everyone would keep those appointments. What that looks like, you know, in 3 weeks' time, we may have more availability. Again, if anyone's in a difficult situation with finding or securing an appointment, we do recommend they call the health department, and we may have some ability to help you. And we will have, you know, situations with cancellations, and we can help people, but overall, I have no guarantee, and it's a small allocation. So please keep your appointments. We're looking to serve new people that haven't had the luxury of being able to secure an appointment yet. So we want to serve as many people as we can.
Right, okay. Thank you very much.
Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not so much a question, but just more a comment. Kristen, it is impossible for me to thank you enough for the work that you have done. To me, the two most pressing issues facing this community are getting people vaccinated and getting our kids back in school. Like, those to me are the two most important things. And I think it's nearly impossible for people to express enough thanks for the amount of effort that you have put into getting people vaccinated. Getting people vaccinated lets people get back on with their lives, and it saves lives. And people have been able to move on with their lives and literally been saved from this virus because of the work that you have done. So thank you so much for everything that you have done. Again, it's tremendous, and it cannot be stated how much appreciation I personally have, and this community should have, for the work that you have done. Thank you.
Welcome, Tim. And I think I hope I say it every time I get big thanks. And everyone likes to give me the credit. It's a team effort. And, you know, my best buddy, Chief Parente, my BFF, as we work through this whole process, and he and the entire fire department staff, and, you know, Becca, who's worked the front door at our clinics, and the whole crew in the fire department, police department, their support. So it's been a great way to get the community back together, and a really great way to come to town. So it's been, I think, all of our pleasure, and we look forward to continuing to offer these opportunities.
Yeah, sorry. I completely understand that it's a team effort. I've talked to Chief about it. But teams don't work without great leadership. So again, like, just so you hear how much we all appreciate the work that you've done, Kristen. Thank you.
Yes, Scott Rogers.
Yeah, just to pivot on that, I mean, not just what you've done for Northborough, you and the team, but look at the leadership you've then exhibited to put together the regional clinic, and then what you're going to talk to next in terms of the shared services. So, you know, not just having the appropriate focus on our community, but you really have gone above and beyond to focus on the whole region here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. If there are no more questions, very good. Kristen, why don't you go ahead and proceed with the next item?
Sure. So next item is a recent opportunity that was presented by the Mass Department of Public Health. It's a grant program. It's called the Public Health Excellence Grant Program for Shared Services. And so the application was due on April 1st, I believe. It was a bit of a scramble to pull it together during vaccine planning, and also the state didn't give us a very large window to really plan for this. So we had, you know, our key representatives that were involved in these discussions were obviously town administrators, because it is a large grant, Board of Health agents, and I'm trying to think who else is in the mix. So we really, you know, set up some meetings between the towns. So again, this grant opportunity was already submitted. We're waiting to hear. We'll know actually in 2 days' time. The state has $10 million they're distributing to local public health, and it's in grants. They're anticipating that they'll be awarding 30 grants across the state of Massachusetts. And in order to apply, it has to be regional. So you couldn't just say town of Northborough apply. You had to have at least 3 communities. Our application included 4. So the towns were Northborough, Southborough, Westborough, and Boylston, which is, it's been a great way to continue working with these partners who are also part of our regional vaccination clinic. So we have some meetings with the help of CMRPC. Connor Robershot over there helped to facilitate a meeting, as well as Sam Wong, who was previous health agent to the city of Framingham. Many of you may have known Sam Wong. He's been in public health for a long time. So we held these working group meetings and really discussed what do we need in our local communities. And what the state really wanted, they didn't want one-off projects. They didn't want us to just, focus on substance abuse. They really wanted us to increase our core services. And so what we all decided our key priorities were obviously public health nursing, right? We see these nurses that have been doing contact tracing, et cetera. And also many of our smaller communities, we don't have a familiar face. We don't have a nurse that's housed in town hall that can assist people with the public health nursing services that some of the larger, more wealthy communities are accustomed to. We also identified that inspectional services are something where we're lacking. I know in my role, I really struggle to get out and do all the food inspections with all these new responsibilities. And so those are the, two of the key things on a staffing level was getting public health nursing to physicians to help our position and increasing inspectional services. So the other thought was, we're all one-offs in a lot of our communities. There's one health agent. And what do you do when you go on vacation and, there's a flood and someone needs to inspect a food establishment and those sort of things. So we talked a little bit about addressing those shortages or covering people for trainings, et cetera. The challenges we face with Northborough, our local public health department, are pretty similar across the state. They typically, public health has been underfunded. We don't have a line item, that we receive from the state. So our departments are fairly small, and we've really seen that stress through the pandemic. And then we're trying to increase efficiencies. And so one of the key elements in the proposal that's part of the grant is inspectional software, and it would help with both food inspections and housing inspections. The housing inspection software also serves as almost a case management tool, which is really difficult when we have these difficult housing cases. Somebody calls to complain, it's a tenant, you're going into a property, it's not just a one-off visit. It's often going back multiple times to correct issues. And so the software is both case management and inspectional services, and produces an absolutely beautiful inspection report with photos, which is great because a lot of the times you're at a food inspection or housing, the owner isn't always there. They don't know what you saw, and there's a lot of back and forth. So that software is part of the package. So overall, the grant allows us to go for $300,000 a year. We went for the max. It's sort of recommended everybody went for the max. The state's got to get this money out the door. They're actually starting the grant. They're prorating for 2 months. So the grant actually starts on May and June, and then officially with that full year. So it's a 3-year award, annual budget, and then it can be extended. So the total grant projected timeline is 12 years, which, this grant opportunity, one, in the scope of the money at $300,000 a year, and the timeline it's historic. It's unprecedented. We've really never seen this in public health, this influx of funding. And, everybody says, will that money be there, after the 3rd year? That's the guaranteed allocation. The state's saying this is a high priority for them, but like with all funding, we'll see when we get there. But I do want to, big thanks to Becca, was a big part of some of these early meetings, as well as John. They're supportive. And they were involved in the planning process and the grant submission. It was the slimmest grant application I've ever seen. DPH wanted to make it a really light lift for communities, so you were sort of just able to ask for $300,000 on 5 pieces of paper. So it's off, and I think we'll learn more. We don't necessarily need to have all the answers just yet, like sign memorandums of understanding or agreement with the communities, and every Board of Health signing off. All of that is sort of at a later date. Even the detailed budget, I think it's supposed to be 3-year when the 3 months after the state of emergency ends. What is that? We don't know. So it's a little loosey-goosey. We'll know about the award on Wednesday and let all of you know as soon as possible. But again, we would be going for the nursing services. We're anticipating we'd be able to hire 1.5 nursing positions to share among the 4 communities. They'd sort of float around with the 4 communities and shared programming, expand. Westboro has a really great childhood immunization program we hope we could bring to the other 3 communities. The inspectional services that we would look to increase is increasing. The town of Northborough right now just has a line item of $13,000 to cover our food inspections. It's not quite enough to do everything we need to do. So we'll be taking that position, which is about 7 hours a week, increasing it to 32. And that person would support food and housing inspections in the town of Southborough and Boylston. And we do think that's very manageable. As you know, Boylston's only a community of about 5,000. Southborough's around 10,000, but they don't have the sheer number of food establishments we have or housing. Not that we have a lot here in Northborough. So again, it would be a sharing of the nursing and the inspectional services. Inspectional services would be a Northborough hire. Nursing services would be contracted out likely through SAM and VNA, and then we get the inspectional software. So more to come on that and all the details. But I think it's a really exciting opportunity. I heard a rumor that only 30 applications were submitted. So I'm hoping that means their chances are pretty good. But again, we'll know more in a couple days. And I think lastly, I just really want to stress is while the state of Massachusetts they really want to see this model of shared services. You know, some of our communities are so small, it doesn't make sense to all have a full-time housing person or a food person, you know. But this process, although the state wants to see us regionalize, we are not taking away or getting rid of local boards of health with this proposal. The local boards of health still stand there. There's lots of models for regional public health services in the state of Massachusetts, and we'll be looking at that, you know, as we proceed and what really makes sense for our communities. But I want to really stress that at no point are we talking about changing the Northborough Board of Health, and that they would still, you know, meet and have their authority to vote, set regulations, et cetera. We're really just sharing these positions, and each board would need to designate these hired individuals as their agents. So there's some level of agreement we'll come to over time. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on the grant.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kristen. I guess in terms of the financing and the outlook and the time frame that you mentioned, I'm sure like in the current circumstances where vaccinations are rolling out and everything, and we're hopeful of a return to what we consider to be a normal lifestyle. Is some of this kind of forward-looking in the sense that we don't know what to anticipate, and we understand that a greater coverage or capacity of health services is going to be required?
That was a key reason for going for the nurse, right? The nursing positions is having, you know, this 1.5 positions, they could be a key part of setting up regional clinics in the future for vaccinations. You know, so if there is a booster shot that is required, you know, come fall, that these 2 positions would report and be housed in these towns, and they could directly help with that coordination. So, you know, these nurses, if you know a good public health nurse, you know, they can do a wide breadth of things in the community, you know, but at this point, I think obviously we would focus on the highest priority. And so hopefully those positions could assist, you know, in what we see right now is the greatest need in local public health, which is obviously vaccination and contact tracing, et cetera.
Thank you. Board members, any other questions? Leslie?
Yeah, Christian, what another great initiative. This is fantastic. One of the other things I noticed is that the Northborough would serve as the lead entity to coordinate shared services agreement. Is that a good thing?
I think it's a good thing. You know, there was a lot of discussion, you know, would this be better held with Westboro, which is a larger community with a little more capacity? You know, I think it was decided at the time, you know, Southborough has an interim health agent. Westboro is in the process of hiring a health agent or health director. And Boylston's health director, who's actually worked part-time for our local board of health, is retiring in a year. So I think it was an element of staffing that said, if we're going to pull this off, you know, foreseeable future, you know, it's Northborough. What that looks like after 3 years, you know, could we all come to a consensus and shift that possibly? There are some financial benefits of being the lead entity. It does allow for us to, we include a 15% administrative fee off the grant. So that's $45,000 a year that would be able to be distributed appropriately to help cover staff services. So if it's the accounting time or if it's town council time or et cetera. So hopefully by having that 15% administrative fee, you know, we're not out anything, right? Like that should, we hope, cover our costs. Another key element I didn't mention, in the first 2 months of the grant, we included a $10,000 line item to CMRPC, who would actually help us set up some of these agreements and be the lead in facilitating these meetings, which would be so critical in the first 2 months, you know, supporting the boards of health and making the votes to designate agents and coming to an agreement on what that nursing contract would look like, et cetera. So I hope in the end, I think it's, you know, it's tough to get John to agree to anything. So we did push the 15% administrative fee. It also allows in my salaries in there, that 25% of my salary would be reimbursable, so we could backfill some of the roles I'm currently doing, so I don't become a 75-hour-a-week person and helping to administer this. So we would be able to contract out with that additional, that 25% of my salary is separate from the 15% administrative fee line. So we're hoping it's sustainable and it's reasonable, and it will be in the best interest of Northborough residents.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. And I also saw one other small note about the 1.5 full-time equivalent nurse. There would also be office hours in addition to all the other things that you mentioned. So that sounds like some wonderful stuff in here. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. John.
Yeah, so I can't let that comment go without a response. First of all, Kristen's just knocking it out of the park here, as you all can see. She's done a phenomenal job in the middle of taking on all this regional work on the clinic to be able to work and take the lead on this regional grant as well. It's just tremendous. So she's just doing a great job for us. Our caution always is in the state has a tendency to offer these carrots and then oftentimes not follow through on their end of it. We saw it with the Quinn bill, we saw it with regional transportation at the high school, the special education circuit breaker. I might go on and on. So this is a great opportunity. We just want to be cautious, and we want to make sure that we grow it in a way that makes sense. And I think we've struck that balance beautifully with the submission. And as Kristen said, they've got $10 million. They need to roll it out. So we are, one of the first communities in line to make use of that. And I think in the long run, we should be looking at, as we always do, wherever there's an opportunity for shared services and regionalization, if and when it makes sense, we should be doing that. A perfect poster child for this is our veterans district that we share with several other communities. That's worked very well for us. Takes time, and sometimes do things incrementally, but great opportunity. And again, the state didn't give us a lot of time. Normally we would come in and we'd have a conversation with the board about, hey, this is grant, we're looking to apply for. This is how we envision it playing out. It was literally, you got to pull the trigger and submit this thing. You can talk about it later. So this was the first opportunity we had to bring it to you. We wanted to do that, but a great opportunity it is, and we'll take a full advantage of it. So again, thanks to Kristen for all the great work she's done, and we'll hopefully have some good news to share with you in a few days.
Excellent. Thank you, John. Any other members of the board? Comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll just close. Kristen, adding my thanks. I appreciate all the fabulous work, and so much of this work basically is work that we would not have anticipated having to do, right? A year ago. So here we are, and it's just very reassuring, I'm sure, to us as board members and to the citizens of the town that we have someone so capable of spearheading these initiatives and getting all the organization in place. It's a lot of logistics, a lot of organization, and just very, very pleased that we have the point person who's capable of doing that. So thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Now past the hour of 7:10 p.m. and we have Scott Charpentier, Director of Public Works, for the award of Shared Winter Streets and Spaces Grant and update on traffic safety efforts. So, Scott, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, board members. I was here on February 22nd to go over the Shared Winter Streets Grant Program that Mass DOT is administering. They had 4 rounds. I discussed with you at the prior meeting one of our submissions under round 3 that was unfortunately not awarded. We did meet with Mass DOT's Shared Winter Streets representative, talk about some project alternatives and options. So when it came before you on the 22nd of February, I presented the pedestrian safety improvements at our recreational facilities. So I'm happy to announce that the state did award us approximately $60,000 for pedestrian safety improvements. What was discussed then and what is being funded are the rapid flashing pedestrian-activated beacons, the ones very similar to the ones we have at Northgate crossing South Street. We have 4 sets of them that are going to be funded. The focus, again, on the Shared Winter Streets program is pedestrian safety, access to recreational facilities and other facilities for children and seniors. The locations that are being funded, one is at South Street and Davis Ave. That accesses the Ellsworth Mcafee Park complex. The other one also accesses the same complex, but on the northern side at Longfellow. There's going to include crosswalk repainting and new cement concrete wheelchair ramps with detectable warning panels. Those two access our Ellsworth Mcafee Park. That provides access between the schools of Northgate, the school of Northgate, Proctor, over to the playing fields, and it also will provide access to our pickleball courts when they're hopefully built and funded through a town meeting this coming May 1st. One of the other locations is up at Assabet Park, also crossing South Street near Gale. That park, as you know, is in the final design phases of reconstructing the playground area. So there we're proposing another set of rapid flashing pedestrian-activated beacons. These are all solar powered. There'll be concrete wheelchair ramps there as well. And then the fourth location is on East Main Street between Memorial Field and Casey Field. There's a crosswalk there that sees a lot of activity between the two fields, ball players running back and forth, as well as the parents and siblings to get to the snack shack. It's a critical location. It's been signed in the past for warnings, but that's our fourth location. In addition to that, we're also purchasing 4 bicycle racks. 2 will be located at Ellsworth Mcafee. 1 will be located at Casey, and 1 at Memorial Field. Those will all be installed by DPW. One of the components of this grant that's challenging is that they have a timely expenditure piece to it. So again, we got $60,000 awarded to us. Everything needs to be spent by May 31st. And we have to comply with procurement law, which generally doesn't fall on quick timelines efficiently or adequately. So we pre-procured materials before the grant was awarded. We got solicited competitive bids. We have the quotes. We've engaged those vendors with POs from the quotes we already had. Unfortunately, we don't have time to hire to bid out a contractor to install it. So the public works staff will be doing the installations. We'll be installing the beacon foundations, the poles, bike racks, you name it. So it's a good project. It's needed. It's going to be a wonderful addition to the town. My staff will have something a little different to do as opposed to the mundane potholes and trees and mowings. But it's going to be aggressive. But we're looking forward to implementing some safety measures that have been expressed by the citizens, and we were able to find a funding mechanism to make it happen. So that's our good news.
Very good. Thank you very much, Scott. Any questions from the board about this particular project? Leslie?
Yeah, first of all, this is great news, and I like the fact that it's not just promoting safety. It hopefully will encourage people to say, "Hey, look, I know I can walk. I don't have to jump in my car with my kids. We can walk and ride our bikes, and they'll feel like it's a more comfortable thing for them to do." So, those are great locations, and the Route 135 fields get so busy that this makes a lot of sense on both the south and the northern locations there. I think that's sorely needed. So thank you very much for doing all that. And that won't be a lot of work, I guess, with in-house staff. We're not left with a lot of choice there, it doesn't sound like.
No, there really wasn't. I had a lot of detailed conversations with the state about it. And they appreciate seeing local municipalities, have some skin in the game, so to speak, and put some work forward to implement something. It shows that it's important to the community when the staff is willing to dig in and do it as well.
Thank you so much, Scott.
You're welcome.
Scott Rogers.
Yeah, I know it won't help for the May timeframe in terms of staffing, Scott, but maybe an opportunity to make your pitch for your summer recruitment. You're looking for some augment staff in other ways?
We are. Every year, Public Works hires a handful of summer employees. It's a full-time job. It's great for a recent high school grad getting ready to go off to college, or a college student who's home for the summer. Again, it's a full-time job. You're out by 3:30. You're in at 7. You get to work with, quality professionals in a good community doing hard work and learning a bit about property maintenance. Anybody out there who has able-bodied kids at a home for school and want to get them out to work, 63 Main Street, grab an application, bring it in, please.
Very good, thank you. Tim Kalen.
Scott, is 8 years old too young?
Never too
just
young to
right.
start them, Tim. Never too young. Start with lawn mowing.
After a long year of my kids being home, I think my wife would love it if he got a job.
Right. Scott, I do have one question about the crosswalks and traffic control, whatever, on South Street. There's no expected impact on traffic flow through there while that work is being done? How is that going to be scheduled?
We'll have, I expect to have a police detail at the Assabet crossing. That could be slightly congested coming in and out of town during some like the morning commute hour coming up 135. Davis Ave is pretty wide open. There's a good amount of parking there right off the side of the road on the Ellsworth Park side. The north side of Ellsworth Mcafee also has adequate space, and East Main Street is wide open both directions. So the only location where I see it to be somewhat challenging from a traffic flow perspective would be the Assabet end.
Okay. People have an expectation.
We'll schedule it after the railroad track work is done. Okay.
Oh, sure. Yes, of course. Leslie.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add too, Scott, I thought it was nice that you could tell that the Mass DOT did not send you a form letter on April 6th. I thought it was nice because it said, we received many applications and had a competitive applicant pool from which to select, and your application stood out. So that's not something you'd see in a form letter. I thought that was very nice and it was addressed to you. So thank you very much for everything you did in putting that together.
Well, you're welcome. Happy to do it.
Any other questions from the board on this one? Seeing none, Scott, do you want to proceed with the second item?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Second agenda item is related to the Bartlett Street traffic concerns that have been expressed by a number of citizens over the past month or two. And just want to give an update on where we are. We receive a lot of emails. We post the emails and responses on our transportation safety webpage, which can be found by going to the town of Northborough's homepage and then drilling into the Department of Public Works. And it's the first permanent link you'll see on the left, transportation safety. So there's a lot of information on that site, a lot of email questions and responses. So I'll quickly go through some of the topics we've discussed before that are still pending resolution. One of the concerns was tractor trailers parking on Bartlett Street. And as the board is aware, at your January 11th meeting, you approved a parking ban along Bartlett Street for its entire length on both sides. Previously, there was a parking ban, but it was oddly written in that it was at certain times on one side of the road and certain days on the other side of the road. It was a bit complicated. Simplifying it makes it much easier for enforcement, and enforcement is now available because all the no parking signs have been posted. They're all up and visible, so enforcement can occur. One question came up regarding the Amazon mitigation funds. As you know, at one of your prior meetings, John discussed a mitigation fund approval from Amazon for approximately $80,000 to implement a variety of transportation safety improvements along the Bartlett Street corridor. Our understanding through written correspondence with Amazon is that has been approved, and they're just in the process of getting payment released, and the town is also in the process of getting payment eligible for receipt. The question asked about, one of the questions was, what are we spending a lot of this mitigation funds on? And we have a series of targeted items that we're looking to fund. Some of them are identified through traffic calming measures that CMRPC has outlined at a prior planning board meeting. And I'll go over a few of them briefly here. We're proposing to lay out bicycle lanes on Bartlett Street from the Marlborough, Northborough town city line, where there are bike lanes on the Marlborough side, to extend those into Northborough. Our goal and objective would be to get them extended all the way into Algonquin Regional High School. We're going to engage an engineer to come up with the layout. There are specific traffic layout requirements associated with that, and that securing that layout has already been in the works. I'm awaiting a proposal today. Another component is the installation of more of our pedestrian-activated rapid flashing beacons at the crosswalks. We have 2 crosswalks within this stretch of road. One is at the high school, which is at a pretty common area. You would expect to see a crosswalk at a high school entrance. The other one is a little less than common. It's at the trail crossing. I believe it's Stirrup Brook Trail, which is just town side of the Lyman Street intersection. That's the type of crosswalk that you don't expect to see. So having a rapid flashing beacon at that location, I think, will enhance pedestrian safety, especially getting across that trailhead to get over to Bartlett Pond. As part of the crosswalk enhancements at the high school, we're going to install a wheelchair ramp with concrete landing on the Maple Street side. That crosswalk has a compliant ramp on the high school side, and then it discharges currently into kind of a dirt area. So we're gonna put a crosswalk that has compliant tactile warning strips, wheelchair landing area. So that will be a safe and compliant crosswalk when the work is complete. We're also looking to implement a traffic engineering speed study for the Algonquin Regional High School area. Some residents had mentioned and questioned if a safety speed zone could be implemented at that location. The school zones are used for grades 1 through 8 inclusive, and not for high schools. That's in accordance with MUTCD's Massachusetts Mass DOT amendments. Speed zones are quite a bit different. Speed zones are adopted by local governing boards, Board of Selectmen in our case. The implementing something like a speed zone certainly warrants an appropriate and thorough engineering study to see what is warranted at this location. So we've requested a proposal from a traffic engineer to complete the traffic engineering study for consideration of a speed zone at this location. I'm waiting on that proposal now, and that work can proceed once the proposal is received and we get funding through Amazon. One of the other questions that has come up often is about a traffic study, and there are there's 3 traffic studies going on Bartlett Street. One is the one I just described, about a speed study for a traffic by the traffic engineers around Algonquin Regional High School. We're also going to get traffic counts done by CMRPC in the area. One location is Bartlett Street between Lyman and Route 20. The other one is Collins, and then third location on Maple Street between Ridge and Route 20. Those counts will depict on what the actual truck traffic is along those 3 roads. The third traffic study is the post-occupancy traffic study that Amazon committed to funding. When that facility is fully 100% operational, which has been projected to be in July or August, we will engage CMRPC to assist in developing the scope of services for that post-occupancy study, and then go forward with that analysis. So those are the 3 traffic studies, the traffic study balls that are in the air right now. Another question that the residents had is about permanent signage across the street from the Amazon and FedEx driveway entrance. I had a meeting with Amazon on March 22nd to discuss the permitting process for installation of a sign across their driveway. Gave them the permitting paperwork necessary, spoke with them on Friday. They prepared a draft permit application. We had comments about additional graphics we needed to see foundation design and breakaway capabilities. I'm expecting to get a response from them later this week. So that is in the works. I've also been informed that they are expecting delivery of their entrance sign soon. So that will be going up. I know they put up a large, looks like a sheet of plywood with an Amazon label and arrow, but the permanent side is coming. So again, I want to make sure everybody watching remembers and understands we have that transportation safety webpage. There's a lot of information out there. There's one link that's dedicated solely to truck congestion and traffic concerns. A lot of the email questions that we've received have been posted there along with the responses. The maintaining that website and providing those responses could not have been done without, John and Chief Liver and our town engineer Fred and Becca helping out. So those responses get put together by staff, vetted out. It may take a week or two to get a response. That's because we run it around and make sure we're getting accurate and concise information out to the public. So that's a general summary of where we are with a series of topics along Bartlett Street. Mr. Chairman, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to field them.
Thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate all the work that's being done to try to address some of these issues and provide these updates so that we know that there has been some progress in getting some of these items installed and operating. Members of the board, any questions or comments? Julianne.
Well, first of all, Scott, that was a great summary of all that you're doing. And the traffic webpage is a great addition, but there's nothing like hearing a report from you in person. So that was really helpful. So I have a question about the speed zone in front of the high school. What I thought the residents were referring to was a thing called a safety zone. Is there a difference between a speed zone and a safety zone?
It's a safety speed zone is what it is. There are multiple types of speed zones. A safety speed zone is a 20 mile an hour speed zone. It's adopted by the Board of Selectmen. We're engaging an engineering study to evaluate the warrant of that at the high school.
So could you explain to me, when you read about this, it doesn't sound like an engineering study is absolutely necessary. What benefit would that do for us?
An engineering study is necessary for any speed limit amendment. So we have a speed limit on a roadway, for example, that's 35 miles an hour. A citizen or a department head, we're directed to consider amending that 35 down to 30. We have to do an engineering study to justify that speed limit change. The same thing should occur with a safety speed zone. I would not recommend as a professional engineer to this Board of Selectmen that a safety speed zone of 20 miles an hour be adopted arbitrarily at Algonquin Regional High School just because. So a proper engineering study, in my opinion, is warranted here.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments from the board? I see none. Thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate the update. I'm sorry, can you repeat the time frame for some of the signage installation that we're expecting for Amazon?
Yes. The signs across from the entrance, the Trailblazer signs, identifying the directions the trucks should use when they depart the facility. I already received the draft permit application. The expectation is that those signs will take a few weeks to procure by Amazon after approval. I fully expect full permit submission this week with approval this week. That would put installation somewhere in the early to mid-May window, which seems to follow similar to what the permanent entrance sign will be at Amazon.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. If there are no other questions or comments, seeing none. Scott, appreciate all the work. Thank you very much.
Always happy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. This brings us to reports. We will begin with Scott Rogers.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing to report other than to just thank Chief Parenti for the monthly report. We gave a lot of praise to Kristen while she was here. Also, just note the paragraph that the chief included in his report saying how this, an event that could have led to a lot of frustration and anger, to use his words, that really what it did is brought all the departments together. And so sometimes out of dire events comes something positive. So I really like those words. Thank you, Chief. That ends my report.
Oh, thank you, Scott. Okay, Julianne?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so town meeting is going to be outside May 1st, which is again a change for us. Could someone just explain how we're, other than the town website, is there a possibility of getting that up on the Lions Club bulletin board, or maybe through some school communication possibilities?
John, can you respond?
Sure. So we'll push the town meeting dates out as we get a little closer. What we probably will do as we get a week out is to send out a code red message out to the community, letting everybody know when town meeting is. I mean, most folks are, if you're tuned into town meeting and you're aware, if you've attended, you know when it is roughly. That information is readily available, obviously, on the website. We'll push it out through town news. Community Advocate has reported on it. We've issued several press releases, so we'll continue to do that, make sure the word gets out.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that you're doing code red again. So do you, so you think a week is enough, maybe 2 weeks in advance so people can plan, or?
Well, you know, generally you want to give people enough warning that they can plan, but if you send it out too early, it, you know, it doesn't necessarily have the same impact. So.
Okay, all right, that's good. That's good to hear. And just correct me if I'm wrong. Last year, did the superintendent send something out through the school emails, or?
I don't recall through the.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll take advantage of any communication source that we can, though.
Great. Okay, secondly, I attended the Cultural Council grant reception, and once again, the NCC did a wonderful job. To quote Terry Underwood, the arts are alive and well in Northborough, and I just want to remind folks that that committee is looking for new members, so if you don't have to be an artist or a musician or, you know, a Van Gogh. If you just want to support the arts, they'd love to have you. And the other thing I'd like to announce is that the planning board and department received a grant from CMRPC to do a walk safety audit in the Bartlett Street area. This, of course, came as a result of the meeting that the planning board had with CMRPC as they talked about various ways the town can address traffic. So they'll be collecting data and doing an analysis, and that will happen April through July. In August, there will be a meeting of stakeholders and other departments, and a final report is due in 2021. So thanks again to the planning board and department for moving us forward in that direction. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the fact that we receive a lot of emails, which is a wonderful thing. I want to thank all the residents for emailing us with their concerns. You're always polite. You're always, you know, on point. But it's difficult for us to answer them because of open meeting law. If more than 2 or 3 of us start responding, it can get a little confusing with the open meeting law. So what I'm asking tonight is that we put on the agenda in the very near future a policy about how we address the emails from the residents. You know, many people say to me, look, I don't care if you answer me with a solution to a problem. I just want to know that you received the email. So between now and when we set up a policy, can we come to some sort of agreement that one of us will say email received? Maybe it should be the chairperson, maybe it should be the clerk. But I think, you know, never getting a response to anything can be very frustrating. So can we talk about how to address that?
Sure, I'll take that up at a later meeting, Julian.
Thank you. Oh, and that ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Leslie Rattan.
Yes, I would first like to congratulate George Brankel, who is a member of our Appropriations Committee, who was honored for serving 12 years as Boy Scout Troop 1 Scoutmaster. Had a little experience with Troop 1 myself with one of my kids, and it's really a great troop, and it's admirable that he served for that long as Scoutmaster. It's a lot of responsibility, it's a lot of planning and organization with the kids, and a lot of trips, and it's not just local things, so I want to congratulate him on that. That's wonderful. Chief Liver, I wanted to find out if there have been any new developments in Kearney Park. Have we gotten any complaints from anybody? I know now that the weather's nicer, I think that people are probably using it to walk their dogs.
Yes, people are using it. They're walking their dogs. They're still off leash during the day shift, and if there's enough people in 4 to 12, we do have officers make a walk through the park and address people that are not walking their dogs. But due to the fact that it takes an officer away from the cruise, we don't do it that often. It's state property, and it falls under the authority of the Department of DCR, Conservation and Recreation. They have rangers, and it's really their responsibility to police what people call Kearney Park. It's actually a DCR water flood control area. And the part that the town owns is the parking area that is known as Kearney Park. But the rest of the area is not Kearney Park. We have to use DCR citations when we're on that property. We can't use the town of Northborough citations. And, you know, it's an accountable system where we have to account for all the citations that we do issue. So it's there. It hasn't gone away. It seems to be better. We haven't got many complaints. I do know that certain residents, I've received phone calls from folks that live on Shady Lane Ave in the back, whose property abuts the river.
Yes.
Still having problems with dogs coming across and owners walking through their property and just carrying about like they own the people's backyard. So I know one friend, Jamie for one, has asked me for some assistance in reaching out to the rangers, which I have made a phone call. But they show me they have 2 park rangers for Central Mass, and you know, there are thousands of square miles of parkland that they patrol. So yeah, we'll do the best we can.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I appreciate knowing that, and I know I've heard those same complaints too, and that's pretty serious. You know, they need to be able to enjoy their backyard without wondering what dog or person is going to be just tromping right up there to get their dog. That's not really fair. So that is a big concern. Again, I've heard that a few times. So thank you for that information. And so it sounds like in their stead, you're able to use citations, you said, that are accountable to their bookwork?
Yes.
Okay.
We have to take them into Boston.
I see. Well, that makes it more complicated. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. I also wanted to mention crosswalks again, like I usually do. One that I noticed this week that I think is actually hard to spot, and I think where people kind of gain some speed, is the one right in front of Town Hall. People are kind of ramping it up through there in terms of their speed, and there were people just zooming right through, and there was somebody that's standing on the crosswalk with a stroller. Really quite scary. So I just wanted to remind people that they really need to watch right now, and not be oblivious to these crosswalks. You may have to look a little harder for some of them, but they're there, and you have to be very, very careful. Wanted to again wish good luck to the students and staff as they return to in-person learning. It's a big step for everyone after having the year we had, so I want to wish everyone luck, and parents as well. My last thing that I wanted to say is I wanted to mention the fact that this is Selectman Tim Kalen's last meeting with us, aside from town meeting. And you will be missed, Tim. You've done a great job, and I think I've really appreciated your steady, very thoughtful approach to things. You stick to your guns, you stick to your convictions, and you are also a wonderful listener. You like to hear both sides of things before you make a decision. And everything you've done is very, very well thought. And you're very thoughtful and appreciative of town staff and what other people are doing in this community. So I just wanted to thank you very much for your work with the board. And I'm sorry to see you go, but you've had a wonderful impact on the town. And we hope to see you doing other things. So
Thank you, Leslie.
very, very much, Tim.
Thank you.
All set, Leslie?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes. And that's
Very
my
good. Scott, where am I? I'm at Tim Kalen. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, as Leslie said, you know, as many people know, I'm not running for re-election, and tonight is my last Board of Selectmen meeting for the at least for the foreseeable future. It was a really, really difficult decision to not run again. I really and truly do love this town. I grew up here. I went to school here. I met some of my best friends here. I continue to meet truly wonderful people. My wife and I could have picked anywhere in the world to raise our kids, and we chose Northborough. So it was a tough choice, but even though I do love this town, my family does come first. Unfortunately, there have been things said about me online and anonymously that have been meant to hurt me personally. Not disagreements about policies or decisions, but truly offensive comments. And I don't know if the people that write these comments realize that they not only hurt me, but they hurt my wife and they hurt my kids. I have shared these comments with people outside of town, whose professional opinions I respect and trust. And their feedback was that these comments were, and I quote, loaded, dangerous, and likely to escalate. So for a volunteer position like the Board of Selectmen, I'm not going to put my family in a position to get hurt. So I made the decision not to run for re-election. I would like to share just a quick story about how I've approached my job as selectman. My mother was a divorced single mother of 3 kids. She worked multiple jobs to do the best she could so her kids could have, you know, just the necessities. She never served on PTO. She never went to town meeting. She never went to any sort of board or committee meetings. But that didn't mean that she didn't care about the well-being of her kids or care about the town. She just didn't have the luxury of disposable time. She worked a lot. And those rare days or nights when she wasn't working, she had 3 kids to raise. When I sit in the seat on the Board of Selectmen, I think about people like my mother. People in this town who are too busy with life to call into meetings every week, to email us every week, to go to board and committee meetings. I think about those people because those people exist in our town. I've always personally felt that the attitude about participating in town politics, the attitude that, well, if it was important enough, they'd find the time to voice their thoughts and attend town meeting and cast their vote. I've always thought that was wrong. To me, that's an entitled attitude. Just because a person doesn't have the capacity or the luxury to participate doesn't mean that person should be ignored and shut out from the decision-making process. On the flip side, just because you do have the luxury of time and can participate, you can call in every meeting, you can send emails every week, you go to meetings, that doesn't make your opinions right. It doesn't mean that your opinions matter more or that your opinions represent everyone's opinion. to me, that's entitlement too. When I was elected to this board, I was elected to serve 15,000 people equally. Not the loudest voice, not the most persistent voice, but all the voices in town. You know, hopefully I've stood up for that principle, and will continue to do that in current or future roles I may have in this community. Lastly, I would like to thank Jason, Leslie, and Scott for their advice as I've made the decision, and much more importantly, their support as I've made this really, really tough choice. I'd like to thank all the staff. You have all been just a joy to work with, and this town is incredibly fortunate to have such dedicated professionals. I'd like to thank my wife and my kids for giving me the space to do this over the last 3 years. And I'd like to thank all the residents who voted for me and supported me. In particular, there was one gentleman who approached me and told me that he was new to our country, and I was the first person he ever voted for. And I will never forget that, and I will always appreciate that. And to that gentleman, I hope I didn't let you down. That ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. Just like to add my comments along that line. It's been a pleasure having you on the board for the past 3 years. You've always approached it very constructively, very well prepared. As Leslie said, you kind of do your analysis, make your decisions, and have your convictions. Certainly appreciate contributions you've made in leading some of the efforts or representing the board in some of the endeavors, such as the Diversity Inclusion Committee. It's been an important, something that we didn't anticipate, but something that you readily approached, took responsibility for, and provided leadership for. So, if I look back to 2017, when Don Rand and I were running for election, and you were opposing us, I think things were perhaps a little more contentious between us, but I have to certainly say that past that, over these last 3 years, it's just been a pleasure working with you. I've enjoyed having you on the board, and I'm sorry that you won't be continuing.
Thank you, Jason.
It's been a pleasure, and I certainly, after one more go-round at town meeting this year, certainly wish you the best, wish your family the best, and just look forward to brighter days going forward. So,
thank you. I'll be back and raising my hand.
there you go. Oh, not him again. To continue with my report, if I can bring my notes up here. I do want to thank Tim for conducting the last Board of Selectmen meeting. I was under the weather and certainly didn't have much of a voice to be able to talk my way through it. Tim just picked up the reins and led the meeting, and so very much appreciate that, Tim. I understand that this is, let me see if I got the right terminology here. Chief Liver and Chief Parenti, Public Safety Telecommunications Workers Week. Is that right?
Yes.
Very good. I'm impressed.
There we go. So in that vein, I just want to thank all of our communications staff for our public safety efforts. They do a lot of great work, and they usually do it, kind of behind the scenes. But their role is so critical in getting our resources deployed quickly when emergencies arise. And so I just want to shout out to Communications Supervisor Chris Carlton and dispatchers Chris Cherry, Amanda Stone, Kathy Mick, Michael Rice, Mike Mueller, and Amy Bullard for they do. So I would like to just acknowledge the recent passing of Claire Swan, Northborough resident. Claire was the wife of a former, longtime former town moderator, Parker Swan. They were just fixtures of the community for so many years, and such wonderful people. Parker was certainly well known for his sense of humor and his magic tricks, as in his role as town moderator, keeping the mood light. And Claire was just very involved in the community. She served on, I believe, the town registrar, Bicentennial Committee, Northborough Garden Club, Northborough Historical Society. In 2005, the town celebrated the two of them by designating them our Grand Marshals for Applefest. So just kind of a sad moment in town history, passing of Claire Swan, and we send our condolences to the family. Just a wonderful lady, and we appreciate everything that she and the Swan family have done for the town. So. And just want to remind people that the Louise Houle Annual Town Cleanup Day is scheduled for Saturday, April 24th. I believe that's through the Community Affairs Committee and the Northborough Junior Women's Club. They have a website up. I believe the website is northboroughcac.weebly.com. Weebly is W-E-E-B-L-Y. You can go to that website and find the link to sign up for the area of town you would like to assist in cleaning up. There's also information posted about when and where you can pick up whatever items you need to do that, and gloves, trash bags, and the like. DPW Director Scott Charpentier will be looking forward to seeing all of the colorful bags posted along the roadways. It is important that you sign up so that DPW knows where to expect to find things when they come around to pick up afterward. So it's a great annual town event, and we certainly encourage people to get out for a couple of hours and try and clean up a small part of the town for everyone's benefit. That concludes my report. John, do you have anything?
I just want to mention, as we start to phase our way out of the pandemic, hopefully, we are starting as an organization to look at reopening. Effective today, Town Hall is back to its regular hours. So we're going to be open Monday, Wednesday, Thursday from 8 to 4 p.m. We're going to be back to our late evenings on Tuesdays, open 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then on Fridays, we're open 7 a.m. to 12 noon. And over the next couple of weeks, we've been working to put together a reopening plan, which I'll be sharing with you soon. But beginning early in May, we're starting to phase in a limited reopening. Folks are very interested in getting into the library, so that will be one of the items. Senior Center is coming a little bit behind that. Town Hall, we are making some modifications in the doorways. Or the doors, so that we can actually turn our doors into some service windows so we can maintain the space a little bit better. Obviously, we've made several physical improvements to the library with plexiglass and things of that nature. So today is the first day that we have officially ended our continuity of operations plan. This is essentially our emergency operations, where we've had people working on 2 shifts so that we've been able to maintain staffing without everybody being exposed. We're getting back to full staffing. Once we get settled in there, we're going to start to push out in terms of reopening plans more further and more completely in May. So that will be to come. The only other thing is just on a personal note, I just want to thank Tim on behalf of the staff for his service on the board. People get elected or they get appointed to boards, usually because there's some item or issue that they're either very much in favor of or very opposed to. And some board members never grow beyond that issue. Tim has gotten to know the organization. He's always taken the time to really delve into the details of things and realizing that we run a $70 million corporation here. It's complex. It's very complex. And I appreciated his business background and his understanding of those complex items. And we've had a lot of conversations, Tim, and I also know that the staff has always felt very supported by you because you've listened. And just want to thank you for your service. It's easy to kind of skip in and be a one-item issue board member. You didn't do that. You got involved in everything across the board. And again, that's what we ask for, or all we can ask for in board members. So wish you well, but I do want to thank you for your service.
Thank you, John. That's very much appreciated.
That's all I have.
Thank you, John. That brings us to public comment. Before we begin, there are a couple of things I want to go over. And as I look down the list here, I just want to ask, please don't raise any hands yet. Just ask anybody, take a look at your Zoom label with your name. If it isn't, if you would like to speak, could you please rename yourself if necessary so that your full name is shown and we know who will be coming in. To preface this, I understand that potentially, certainly on a particular item over the past couple of weeks, the board's been in receipt of a petition, numerous emails, people unhappy with certain matter that's in front of the board, will be before the board at a later agenda item this evening. I would ask to be mindful of three things when you make your public comments. One, to please observe some reasonable decorum, professional conduct in the way you present yourself, the way you present your comments. There's a way to communicate what you want to communicate without needing to resort to insults or demeaning comments or belittling comments about other people. Secondly, ownership. There's a lot of information been going around and frankly a lot of repetition of some of what we received from different people. I just ask everyone, whatever comments you choose to offer, please be certain that it's something that you take ownership for, you have an understanding, have the reasoning process or the belief in what it is you're presenting and not simply presenting something that someone else has presented for you. And third, be mindful of community. There are any number of people who are involved in town government or wish to be involved in town government. And universally, all of these people are doing so in the interests of the community. We may have different ideas about what needs to be done. We may have different ideas about how to do it, but people are looking to serve the community and doing their best, and ask that you be mindful of everyone's sense of service here. Having said that, I'll be going through kind of in three waves here. I'm first going to take comments from people who want to speak about any topic other than the ZBA appointment process. Let me just go through some of the public comment outline here. Public comments, an opportunity for a member of the public to raise an issue, concern, or question to the attention of the board. The board will not engage in debate or deliberate on an issue raised during public comment. If there's a relatively simple informational question that staff can respond to, we will try to do so. When you wish to speak, you can raise your hand in the Zoom application, or if you're connected by phone, you can press *9 to have the effect. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I'm going to lower all hands. Please wait for me to call for hand raises. You can raise your hand in the Zoom application or press *9 if you're connected by audio only. We'll bring in each person for their opportunity to speak. Please first state your full name and address. You will then have 3 minutes, and I will try to alert you when you have 30 seconds remaining so that you can conclude your comments. Now, as I said, the first thing I'm going to take for public comment is any matter that does not pertain to the ZBA appointment process. If anyone has a comment on that topic, on, as I say, any other topic, please raise your hand now. Thank you. I'm going to bring you in one at a time. First up is Kristen Wickstead. Hello, Kristen.
Hi, everyone. So my first question is for DPW Scott. I think you said the bike lanes on Bartlett Street would end at the high school. Did you say that? Like the bike lanes that are supposed to stretch from the Marlborough side of Bartlett Street all the way down Bartlett Street. You said they were gonna end at the high school, or did I hear that wrong? Because that just seems weird to me. Shouldn't they go all the way to Main Street?
Through the chair, our
Sure, sure.
bike lane layout needs to comply with Mass DOT's shared streets design standards. In order to do that, we need to have our traffic engineers out there measuring lane widths, turning movements, and roadway shoulder conditions to determine how far the bike lanes can go. So
Okay, so that's another thing that sort of you're waiting for your engineering study and stuff like that.
that is correct.
Okay, thanks. And then I was pretty sure that the CMRPC recommended sidewalks on Bartlett Street because those also are in the Marlborough side of the street. So would the bike lanes be wide enough to walk on, or were you considering sidewalks also? Like, just safe enough for pedestrians? Because, like, as you said, I think it's fantastic you're going to put the flashing beacon on the part of the crosswalk that where you said, like, it's a weird place for a crosswalk. It really is. I cross there a lot, and I see a lot of people who are just walking the aqueduct. That's where you're supposed to cross to keep walking the aqueduct, and the flashing beacon there will be great. But that whole area right there is super, super dangerous for pedestrians. So I was just wondering, how is that just part of the engineering study too, or?
Through the chair, we are not considering sidewalk installation along Bartlett Street as part of any of the engineering studies that are being performed. Bike lanes are not intended to be shared use with pedestrians. Bicycles are moving vehicles. Pedestrians are on sidewalks, bicycles are on roadways. That's how it's supposed to be and designed. So again, we are not considering sidewalk installation along Bartlett Street.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure the CMRPC did recommend that, but I'll look that up. My last question.
30 seconds, Kristen.
My last question is for Mr. Coder. Last time I called in, you mentioned a police staffing study that you had done, you said several years ago.
Yes.
Do you remember what year that was?
2016.
Okay. And do you not think things have changed quite a bit traffic-wise and the burden to the police in the last 5 years?
No.
Because I feel like that things have changed dramatically since then. We've had a lot of installations go up since then in all parts of town. So just seems to be like maybe we need another one of those. Anyway, those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Next up, Chief Parenti, please correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, okay. I have the phone number ending in digits 376. You need to unmute. And I don't know that I know how to unmute on a phone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Can you first state your name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Manny. Last name is Lopes. I live at 96 Bartlett Street.
Yes, thank you.
And so obviously, you know, my question is on Bartlett Street. It's actually first, I want to say the Scott's presentation. I do want to express appreciation for the efforts to at least get something started on traffic studies, particularly on the safety zone to get the speed down, because these trucks really fly, and it's just a matter of time before there's a problem. So I appreciate that. I'm hoping something positive comes out of it. I have a question, though, and Scott, I think you're probably the person who can answer this, is the weather's getting warm out here, and people got, particularly like us, we have an old 200-something-year-old house with no central air conditioning, And I'm telling you, with the windows and everything closed, the sound level is horrendous 24/7 here. And when windows open, it's going to be extremely difficult to sleep in a residential area with 24/7 trucks flying down the street at night. I have actually gone out because it's woke me up and taken my device out. I have an NIOSH sound level meter on my device, and I was measuring consistently 95 to 100 plus dBs at my house. And, you know, I'm wondering, is there anything, you're doing these studies, is there something that can be done to look at least trying to restrict truck traffic through the residential areas between the hours that people are trying to sleep, say, I don't know, 11 to 6 or something like that, because it is just getting very difficult here with the noise levels. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Would you like me to?
Go ahead, Scott.
respond,
Yep.
Mr. Chair? So we've had numerous requests and communications regarding truck exclusions, specifically along Bartlett Street. There's a lot of information, again, on our transportation webpage. If you go there, Manny, and look under truck congestion, there's a lot of explanations there on how truck exclusions are enacted. There's also an FAQ on that webpage about truck exclusions. One of the critical components of a truck exclusion, I'll just be very brief, Mr. Chair, is that alternate routes are required. If you're going to divert trucks off of one road, you need to have alternate routes that are acceptable for those trucks to go onto. Bartlett Street requires alternate routes through a neighboring community. Mass DOT requires acceptance of those alternate routes by the neighboring community when needed. Our neighboring community has indicated clearly and concisely they will not support an alternate route through Marlborough. That's regardless of whether it's a 24-hour or evening-only truck exclusion.
Thank you, Scott. It says Henry and Teddy and Poppy, but I'm going to assume it's Susie. Bringing you in now.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry. I don't know how to change my name once I call into a webinar yet. So after a year of Zooming here, so I do apologize about that. I thank you, Jason, for bringing up the annual town cleanup. I just wanted to let everyone know there are some changes. We're doing the
Susie,
pickup.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but could you just please state your full name and address, please?
Oh yeah, Susie Sislika, 8 Emerson Road.
Thank you.
We're going to be doing the pickup at the senior center. I had touched base with Parks and Rec about doing it at the Ellsworth. We were worried about soccer, and we're doing a drive-through style. And we do have our regular people coming back to sponsor us with Chick-fil-A sandwiches. We're going to have goodies from Wegmans and coffee from Dunkin'. So we're very excited about that. We are very good at handing out things under pressure. If any of you have attended the annual tree lighting, you know this. So no worries about the drive-through. Also, I want to say we are working in collaboration with the Trails Committee. They were wonderful, and they gave us some trails that you can sign up for this year. And the Northborough Conservation Committee again, and we'll be taking their coloring contest sheets. So very excited about our new collaborations on this. Oh, and please check Facebook, and there's a beautiful write-up about Louise Houle, who the town cleanup was named after, and we're so glad that they did that for us in a short time period. I also wanted to say a huge thank you to DPW Scott for my crosswalks. I am so happy. I want to do like a ribbon cutting ceremony for the first people to cross them. But thank you very much. I really and truly appreciate it. And I hope you all know that I do appreciate that you volunteer and you ran for these positions. And I do call in. Because something was bothering me and I really wanted to see it changed. And I'm appreciative for the Zooms, and I'm appreciative for municipal government, because you can make a change that will affect your daily life right away. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Susie. Next, I have John Wickstead.
Hi, it's John Wickstead from 2 Stirrup Lane.
Yep.
Echo the thanks to the DPW and the town for the update on the traffic situation. Just have a quick question. I know it's going to be a long night for you guys. Trash in front of the businesses on Bartlett Street. Scott, I know you've been up there. Jason, I'm sure you've driven by. The trash situation in front of 301 Bartlett Street in particular is really outrageous. You know, it's Earth Day, and my wife will have me out there for the probably 5th year in a row picking it up, which is great. We're happy to do it, but if the businesses can be held to some kind of standard of picking up that trash in front of their businesses up there, it's really, really outrageous. You know, the snow's gone now, and you can just see it. It's just piled up. Appreciate it in comments. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'm sorry, Scott, do we have any, I guess I'm not sure who the source of the trash would be, whether that's the operations themselves or whether it's traffic passing by on Bartlett Street. Do we have any information on that?
I'd be happy to email the property manager there just to let them know that the residents expressed concerns with trash and indicate that we do have an Earth Day cleanup coming up. And a lot of local businesses, just so you know, they reach out to participate in this quietly. You know, and they reach out to me, and I put them in contact with community affairs. So they do their part, and I'll make sure the 301 folks are aware of that program.
Thank you, Scott. Next up, I have Rachel Armstrong.
Hi,
Hello,
can
Rachel?
you hear me?
Yes, please, if you could, state your name and address.
It's Rachel Armstrong, 10 Hemlock Drive.
Thank you, Rachel.
I also wanted to thank DPW Scott, I hope you don't mind us calling you that, for all of the work. I know that these things take time, and we really appreciate it. I have a couple of questions. I don't know if I should ask them all at once or whether I should ask them and then you answer them.
For this is just as long as it's this segment is not relating to ZBA appointments. Please proceed, Rachel. Yeah.
Okay, so I was wondering about the time frame of the engineering study for the speed safety zone, like when you see that being implemented and the results from that.
I expect to get a proposal. I did this evening, but I'll likely be getting it tomorrow. We cannot engage the engineer without receipt and processing of Amazon's mitigation funds. So I need to wait till that occurs. Generally, it's a week or two to schedule the study to be done, and then a few weeks thereafter. So my expectation is that within a month of receipt of funding, we'll have the engineering study in draft form for consideration.
Okay, that's not too far away, so that's good. And the other question is, we are still seeing a lot of trucks entering the Amazon facility from the west. And I'm wondering, I know that we had asked about signage on the corner of Route 20 and Bartlett Street, trying to redirect the trucks to Hayes Memorial or an alternate route. Has that been discussed at all?
Through the chair, Route 20 is under Mass DOT jurisdiction. We've had correspondence with discussions with Mass DOT about that, and where it's not a regulatory sign, Mass DOT has indicated they're not interested in entertaining that.
So what if it were on Bartlett Street? On the, you know, like, if it's on that corner, can it be on Bartlett Street where it's not on Route 20? I mean,
You wouldn't see it from Route 20.
That's true. I understand.
The state layout runs pretty far back. It's generally 128 feet wide, so it would be far enough off Bartlett that they wouldn't see it until they've already engaged the turn.
Okay. And then my last question is, as you probably know, there have been several accidents on Bartlett Street that involve property damage from the trucks from Amazon and FedEx. And I'm just wondering who pays for the cleanup of that property damage. Is that taxpayers paying for that, or are FedEx and Amazon actually charged for that property damage?
Again, through the chair, John, you want?
Or Scott, yeah.
Okay. So past practice, and it continues today, is that when vehicles veer off the road and cause damage, if it's a monetary damage, i.e. a sign, a guardrail, a roadside piece of infrastructure, Their insurance companies are engaged, and it's covered through the insurance. If it's a surface or a superficial damage, i.e. roadside vegetation, grass rutting, if it appears to be rutted such that it could be a drainage issue, DOT gets out there and fixes it. It's our right of way. We did that at the corner of Stirrup Brook and Bartlett Street last fall, and that's the practice we've done all along. The roadway right of way extends quite a ways past the pavement edge in many instances. There was a tractor trailer that took the Lyman Street right-hand turn tight, and its rear wheels appeared to have gone over the curb. The right-of-way in that location is about 15 feet off the pavement edge of Bartlett Street. So DOT does maintain them, primarily in an effort to keep puddling and infrastructure problems down.
Okay, you bill the insurance company for FedEx and Amazon in certain circumstances? When you said the insurance company, do you mean their insurance company, or is it town insurance?
The vehicle. When there's a vehicle accident, the vehicle covers the cost of damage, just like it would if they careened off and took your shed out, they took my sign out, or somebody's post out. That's the process. Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, I don't see any more hands up. Anyone with a comment that does not relate to ZBA appointments? Seeing none. Okay, don't start raising your hands yet. My first call, certainly we've been in receipt of numerous emails from a number of people who have expressed their concerns. So as a first opportunity here, I'd like to open it up to anyone who has not contacted the Board of Selectmen with an email prior on the topic of the ZBA appointment process. If you are a person who has not emailed us already with your concerns and you wish to speak, please raise your hand now. Very well, seeing none. If you are someone who has emailed us previously and wish to speak, now is the time. Go ahead and raise your hand. Very well. Public comment is concluded. Thank you all. We next proceed to new business, and the first item under new business is the presentation on the fiscal year 2022 capital budget. John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If it's all right with you, I would like to share my screen. Okay, back up to the top here. So the Financial Planning Committee has completed its work. There we go. For the fiscal 2022 capital budget. Now, the capital budget is the first year of the 6-year capital improvement plan that goes before town meeting under specific individualized articles, seeking appropriation and approval so that we can move forward with those projects. So for FY 2022, under the capital budget and on the town meeting warrant, you'll see these projects that I'm showing you in this matrix right here. Now, the way I'm showing this is I'm showing you the projects on the left-hand side. And then it's also very important to understand the financing of these, because what we've been able to do in Northborough, beginning in fiscal 2012, is we've been able to fund most of our routine capital equipment needs with free cash, and that means budget surplus from the prior year that was closed out. So just to run through the projects here very quickly. First is a replacement of 3 police cruisers. Just reminding the board, last year we reduced and postponed a number of capital projects to give us some additional liquidity and capacity to deal with the unknown impacts of COVID-19 and the pandemic. So we did delay replacement of cruisers. We did do 1. This year we would get back on schedule, replace 3 of those cruisers. We also have 2 vehicle replacements under the fire department. We've got a pickup truck replacement and car 1 SUV. This is the chief's vehicle. Both those have been in the schedule for over 6 years and have moved up each year and are on deck for replacement in fiscal 2022. Under recreation, we have new pickleball courts at Ellsworth Mcafee Park. At your last meeting, you had a presentation from John Campbell, chairman of the Community Preservation Committee. This is a project that wasn't in the capital improvement plan. This was a project that came forward through Recreation and DPW to fund pickleball courts this cycle through. So that would be funded through community preservation funds. Again, that's a surcharge that already exists. It would not increase taxes beyond what you currently pay now. Next, we have Dpw Highway. We've got roadway improvement and maintenance for $310,000. As you know, the town of Northborough needs to spend $1.1 million annually in order to maintain our roadways at least right now we're about a 73 on a scale of 0 to 100. So we get about $500,000 in state transportation funding. There's about $500,000 in the operating budget for DPW. And then historically, we've been trying to get additional Chapter 90 transportation funds from the state. Been unsuccessful in doing that. So we have had to make an appropriation from free cash every year to meet that minimum budget of $1.1 million. So that's what this figure here is. And then we've got a 1-ton dump truck with plow and a 1-ton pickup truck with plow. These are routine replacements of our vehicles that you've heard from the DPW director. We've got large trucks that have a 20-year useful life, so we replace those on a 20-year cycle. Smaller vehicles basically have a useful life of about 10 to 12 years, so we're roughly replacing a couple of those every year. We did postpone some of these vehicles last year, as I said, fiscal 21 due to the pandemic. So we have a little bit of a backlog in fiscal 2023, next year's capital budget, that we're going to need to figure out how we sort out. But these are the projects, these are the vehicles from DPW coming forward this year. Next, we have a supervisory control and data acquisition system, a SCADA system. This is what allows the DPW to remotely control and monitor our pump stations and our water tanks. Right now, there's no way for all of these things to communicate and to monitor remotely. So we've done some preliminary studies in terms of connecting all of these remote facilities. This is a $500,000 project. This is the actual construction and implementation of the SCADA system, split roughly 44% water and 56% sewer based on the number of facilities that would be brought on board with the SCADA system. That debt, it would be funded with debt, and the debt service would be paid back through the water enterprise and the sewer enterprise funds. So that project and that debt service is baked into the current rate structure for for those enterprise funds. And then under water and the water enterprise, we have Reservoir Dam Compliance. A lot of people don't know, but we own a reservoir in Shrewsbury and Boylston, and it has a earthen dam, and that dam is old and needs to be removed. And so Scott, through the Municipal Vulnerabilities Grant program, we've identified this dam removal as a priority for the town. In fiscal 2022, we're seeking $50,000 from the Water Enterprise Fund. It'll be a part of a bond issuance. But overall, the DPW director is anticipating $150,000, a 75-25 matching grant, and that's to do the design and permitting. Removal of the dam is somewhere in the neighborhood of about $800,000. We are hopeful that through the Municipal Vulnerabilities Grant and this design work that we will be pursuing some grant funding to help cover the majority of the cost of that removal of that dam. But in order to move forward, this particular project is to get us through the design and permitting process. And then last but not least, we have a utility tractor replacement that's used by the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund. That project would be split using fund balance or free cash within the enterprise funds, 40% water and 60% sewer. So as you can see, if you look at the bottom line, the capital budget for fiscal 2022, that's all of these projects, is $1.87 million. Of that, $805,000 will be on a pay-as-you-go basis using our free cash from the fiscal 20-year closeout. Then we have $292,250 from community preservation, $150,000 in grants, $80,000 in enterprise fund balance, free cash, and then $550,000 in bonds, the debt service of which would be repaid by the enterprise funds. So all of these projects, if approved, will have no additional tax impact. The enterprise fund projects, again, the debt service would be paid back from the enterprise funds. So those will not have an impact on taxes, and they're part of the existing rate structure. So we're kind of trying to get a little bit back on track. Unfortunately, as we closed out fiscal 20, we did not have a lot of free cash. I'll just come back up, and the free cash plan, which you have seen in prior communications. So we finished out fiscal 20 with $1.98 million in free cash. The plan is to use $175,000 of that for the Appropriations Committee's reserve, $500,000 in the operating budget, and then the $805,000 that I just reviewed with you for pay-as-you-go capital projects. So we have somewhere in the neighborhood of about $16 million in pay-as-you-go capital since the inception and adoption of our free cash policy, which diverts one-time revenues from the operating budget and puts them primarily towards one-time capital investments. So in your packet, you do have the detail sheets for each of these projects. Happy to review any of those if you'd like. Each of these projects will move forward to town meeting as an individual warrant article, which is included on the in the closed and posted town meeting warrant. So Financial Planning Committee's completed its work. They unanimously recommend approval of all of these articles, and the Appropriations Committee has also completed their review of all financial articles, including the capital budget articles, and they have unanimously recommended approval of these articles as well. Two quick updates. I did want to mention Fire Station Building Project. I know I've been keeping the board updated. So we have a signed purchase and sales agreement. The seller under that agreement is required to remove all structures and to provide the town with a completely remediated and clean site. As you all know, it is a former gas station, and despite the fact that the seller gave us assurances that the site was clean, they did need to remove the structures under the old garage. There's some compromised soils, and so the seller needs to complete, I think, a little bit more of a significant remediation than he had contemplated. So that work is being done through a licensed site professional. It's all borne in terms of costs by the seller, but that is the holdup. That is why we have not closed on that property yet. As soon as we close on the property, we will get moving forward with that project. The goal is to bring that project forward to town meeting next year, so 2022, for appropriation for construction of the actual station. The other is the feasibility study for town offices that was approved given the pandemic and some of the other priorities that have taken precedent over that. That project is a little bit delayed. As soon as we get through town meeting, the intent is to get that project moving as well. The Old Town Hall for Main Street, West Main Street, that will be coming back to the town in 2022, at least our option to decide if we want to take it back. So the timing is still good. So we're going to spend probably the bulk of the summer and the fall looking at that project. I do just want to draw your attention to the pie chart that's on the screen right now. You know, years ago, prior to these policies of using one-time revenues, essentially free cash for capital, that all the capital projects, all the equipment replaces, all of the roofs, everything that we did was almost completely bonded. Now bonding, at least new general obligation bonds, are very rare. We tend to reserve general obligation bonds for large building projects like the senior center, the Lincoln Street building project, and the upcoming fire station. So It's been very good for us. It's put us in a good position, and as you know, our bond rating was upgraded as part of the Lincoln Street Building Project a couple years ago to our highest rating yet of AA1. So town's in good shape. Our level of debt is low. We're positioned very well for our next large building project, and that's where we'll be heading. So I know you've seen most of these projects as part of the warrant, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. In terms of this evening, generally the Board of Selectmen does not take a position on the capital projects, as those are the jurisdiction of the Financial Planning Committee and the Appropriations Committee. But I thought it was important to, again, just provide this information to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you very much, John. Always a comprehensive presentation, an excellent plan. Dating back to my days on the Financial Planning Committee, I saw the evolution of financial management practices, from bonding nearly everything that we purchased in terms of capital to now, to a very great extent, paying with cash or other one-time revenues, and reserving our debt capacity for, as you said, the large-scale building projects or major capital assets. So a very successful plan, and just another year of executing on that. Any questions from members of the board? Leslie.
Okay, John, thank you very much. I think that you call it SCADA, not SCADA, right? You say SCADA?
SCAT, yeah. SCADA system.
SCADA system, okay. It kind of reminds me a few years ago when we were approving maybe it was on the groundwater committee, I think, underground gas tanks for a gas station that was going to be going in on Route 9. And we were concerned about the alarm system and what happened if this tank ruptured below ground, obviously making for a DEP issue and that sort of thing. And they assured us that they were going to build in an alarm system so that anyone on call would get the call about this. And it kind of reminds me of that, where it sounds like there will be more immediate information going out, more alerts, and that it would go to, through this system and then to someone's cell phone, for example, so that some sort of immediate action could be taking place, and it would be very specific as far as what the problem is.
Yeah, through the chair, I would defer to Scott. This is one of his projects, and one of his something he's very excited about, because right now a lot of this is a manual monitoring with flashing lights, and if somebody doesn't call, we don't always know there's a problem with the pump station. But just 30 seconds or less, Scott, given the hour.
Absolutely, thank you, John. And yeah, the SCADA system is going to allow us to remotely monitor and operate our water and sewer facilities. It does a lot of things from both the protective security side as well as operational flexibility. It's a closed network. It's not something that you Google from home and you get onto it with some special password you made up. It's a closed network. It's a security enhancement that a lot of communities are engaging in, and it's encouraged on both the federal and state level. It'll improve our response and resiliency. Currently, our Assabet water storage tank is not talking to the underbelly valve as we sit here today. We found that out last night. We manually operate the valve just because we kind of know where the water in the tank is going to be, and we go in and operate the valve. That is not a very good way to operate, especially in a community that has industry and commercial developments like we have. When Chief Parenti needs that water, my guys should not be, strapping on their boots in the middle of the night and brushing their teeth and getting out there to do it. It should be a remote access, immediate response to the chief's needs. And that's what SCADA is going to give us.
I think it's great.
Just to, if I may,
sure.
These are projects. This project was conceived of, 5 or 6 years ago, and there's a planning phase. We generally break things up into a planning, engineering and study or permitting phase, and then a construction phase. So the planning phase is completed, and this is the actual construction to bring this project to fruition. But again, almost every project in our capital budget, with the exceptions of, to be frank, the things that come through the Community Preservation Committee, because it's designed to be what it is. All the other projects, they tend to come in at year 6 and each year they move up, each year they get studied. Sometimes they get broken up into engineering and permitting pieces before construction. But that's the plan. That's why we're always looking out at least 6 years. The reality is our capital improvement plan at the departmental level, in many cases, will go out 10 or 20 years. We can tell you, the fire chief can tell you every piece of apparatus to be replaced over the next 20 years. Scott Charpentier's got projects, way out, well beyond the 6-year plan, but there has to be some reasonableness. So, 6 years is a industry standard for things that you really need to be looking at for financing. The last thing I'll just mention is, our policy is to maintain our overall level of debt between, 5 and 10%. Right now we are at 4.2, 4.3% because we continue to pay off our debt and we haven't charged more debt. So we make capacity there to bring in the next big project. And we did that with the Lincoln Street building project, which was a $25.5 million project, of which we were on the hook for $14.84 million. That jumped our debt up to like 7%, and then we continue to pay that and other debt down, and so it's dropped back down. At your next meeting, we will be coming forward. I'll be providing some information to the board with regard to the library, the outstanding debt on the library and the senior center, and a couple of other DPW projects. We are in the process of refinancing. We're working with our consultants, and we'll be coming back to you on May 17th. We believe we can refinance. There's 8 years left on those bonds. We believe we can refinance those and save about $615,000 over that remaining life of those bonds. So as part of that project, we need to go through the process of issuing that debt again, but we also need to go through a rating call. Unfortunately, the Moody's rating call is going to be 3 days before town meeting. Timing isn't the best, but it's still the right thing to do. And I'm proud that we're always looking for ways to save money. Here's a simple way of refinancing some debt, saving over $600,000. Again, creating additional capacity to take on, the fire station building project when that comes to fruition. So everything is working according to policy. Everything is working according to plan. And again, I'm just thrilled with the way this stuff is playing out. The town is making regular, significant investment in our equipment, our infrastructure, and our buildings. And that's the way you're supposed to be doing it. And we're doing it in a way that has maintained a stable impact in terms of the taxes. We're not having these wild swings in the taxes due to lack of planning. So this is all, again, it's our policies, and it's the boards and committees that have the financial discipline to implement those policies consistently.
Thank you, John. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none? All right, thank you. Next item is the interview subcommittee recommendations for appointments to the Zoning Board of Appeals, Community Affairs Committee, and the Youth Commission. The first topic is going to be the Zoning Board of Appeals, and for this segment, select person Leslie Rattan is recusing herself as she has an association to one of the ZBA members and candidates. So we'll be moving, Chief, if you can take care of that for me, we'll demote Leslie to an attendee for the purpose of this deliberation, and then when we complete it, Leslie will return to participate. For those of you out there watching, I don't know if you quite understand earlier, but this is not a hearing, and we won't be taking public input during this this agenda item. So anyway, Leslie is now absent from the deliberation, and the consideration here is 3 appointments to the Zoning Board of Appeals. 2 of those are regular voting seats. 1 of those is an alternate seat. The 2 members of the ZBA in those regular seats, both seeking reappointment. We, in addition, had a member who held an alternate seat who did not seek reappointment, and so that one was vacant. In addition to the 2 incumbents who were seeking reappointment, we had 4 new applicants who submitted their applications, and summary material for consideration because Leslie and Tim Kalin at the time were thought to have potential conflicts of interest. Scott Rogers and I substituted on the interview subcommittee and conducted the interviews. First interviews were held on Monday, March 29th with the 4 new applicants. And then on Wednesday, March 31st, we interviewed the 2 incumbents. And following that, Scott and I deliberated and arrived at the recommendations that are being presented from the interview subcommittee to the full board this evening. Those recommendations were to retain the 2 incumbents, Fran Backstrom and Mark Rattan, in their seats, and to recommend Susie Cislika, one of the 4 applicants, to the alternate seat. So we had a lot of input from the public since those interviews were held. We had also received a petition from citizens who were looking to see more turnover on these boards and to see new applicants get a greater opportunity to be appointed and serve. Well, we can begin there. There are a number of considerations that people might have, and so I guess my first inclination, Scott Rogers, do you have anything else you'd like to add as kind of prefatory to our deliberation?
No, you covered it well, Jason, and just another huge thanks to Diane Rockel for putting the draft minutes together so that the entire board could have the full package of information. So between the recording of the interviews and then the minutes from both nights, that gives written form and video form of the proceedings of the subcommittee.
So I'd like to first give board members an opportunity to speak or express opinions or to ask questions if they would like to. Julianne?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Jason and Scott, for conducting the interviews. And I'd also like to thank the residents for their input. There was a lot of passion around opinions about the appointments for the Zoning Board of Appeals. And, I think, any kind of participation by the residents is always a good, healthy thing. So I think, so what I'm sensing is that the process is maybe not completely understood, and I must admit that I have some questions also about how the interviews were conducted. And one of my major questions is when you interviewed the candidates and you asked standardized questions, did you use some sort of evaluation tool or rubric to kind of, objectively rank your assessment of their qualifications?
We didn't have a scoring scale or anything like that with respect to any of the questions. The questions were, for the most part, informational, and we were just looking to get the information or the presentation by each of the applicants in their responses to those questions. In the case of the new applicants, a lot of that is directed to trying to understand what familiarity they might have with the zoning bylaws, what level of participation they might have had previously. It's an imperfect thing. We also have their standard application they've submitted plus whatever resume they've provided. So in addition to the question and answer being conducted in the interview, we also have essentially the resumes of each of the applicants to review as to their credentials and to the extent that their credentials are in some sense applicable to the work of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
So certain questions were not considered more important than others, is what you're saying?
There wasn't any particular distinction of questions. It was all informational.
Mm. Well, I just bring this up because I've talked to people who have sat on the hiring end of job situations, and usually they have told me that they are given a kind of a tool, and it's takes away the emotion of how you decide on a candidate. So
well, I don't know that there was a lot of emotion involved, Julianne. I don't know that it's necessarily the case that there is a strict formulation of questions for candidates across any of the boards and committees. In this case, we did prepare a standard list of questions. In fact, it's the same set of questions that I prepared 2 years ago when we interviewed candidates on the ZBA. So there was at least one applicant who'd already essentially been through the experience of being interviewed and had a sense of what the content of those questions was.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of evaluation process, we're just taking information. We're not grading people on like a 3 or a 5 or a 10 or whatever, and then adding up numbers to arrive at a result. We're doing essentially the evaluation of what they're presenting, what their credentials or qualifications might be, and making a decision about who we think stands out or is most qualified to serve on the board.
So I do have some concerns about your recommendations, and one goes back to what I think both the interview subcommittee members identified, was that one candidate, especially two for sure, clearly stood out in their educational background and their work background. One of the candidates, for me, I don't know, I even think that this person mentioned it, but on their application it says that they are a certified mediator. But I don't really understand the rationale that you use to
I think you're taking things out of order there slightly. Right.
Sorry?
So at one point in our deliberation, I did say that one candidate's credentials stood out for me. In saying that, though, that was after Scott and I had already done a more preliminary deliberation comparing the incumbents to the new applicants and making the determination that we felt the incumbents should continue to serve in their capacities. So when I made that comment about the qualifications of a particular applicant, I was speaking at that point in the deliberation in the context of evaluating the other 4 applicants for the alternate seat and comparing that applicant to the other 3 applicants.
Could you repeat that?
I'm saying I did cite one of the new applicants' qualifications as being, in my judgment, the best or superior. When I made that comment, we were at a point in the deliberation where we were talking about the 4 new applicants and which one of those we were going to recommend for the alternate seat. We had already made a determination to retain the incumbents in their seats. So it was a comparison of that applicant relative to the other 3 applicants.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't, I read the minutes a couple of times and I watched it. I missed that detail. But regardless, I mean, I think if one candidate is outstanding, they deserve a position on the board. But I will I just want to comment on a couple of the ideas that people put forth that I appreciate and I take to heart. One is that the balance of the board is I believe the newest member will continue to be someone who has had 6 years of experience. And some of the themes that I've heard coming from the emails, and I think also from the petition, is that people would like to see more of a balance of getting some new people on these boards, along with keeping the veterans, because there's great benefit in institutional knowledge and the processes that we use. So that is one comment that I really take to heart, and I have to say that I agree with. And the other thing is that I think as we reappoint people, and when there is such an outpouring of interest, that we have to. Well, I would like to be careful that we don't discourage people from applying to boards and committees, because it's we need to keep that pipeline of interested and clearly very qualified people coming forward to volunteer. So those are just some of the comments I wanted to make about the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Julian. Tim.
All right, I don't have any questions. I do have a bunch of comments, though. First of all, in regards to the process, I watched both sessions and the deliberation. It's the exact same process that we use and has been used for every single board and committee appointment. There was nothing unusual or out of place with it. It's the same process that we use all the time. So just so that is clear. In regards to getting new people onto the ZBA, I think that among most of the selectmen, there's an agreement that the ZBA is probably the most challenging board or committee to be on in town. You have to really understand quite a few things in order to effectively fill that seat. And I just want everybody to know that during the 3:31 meeting, at the 38-minute mark, Jason Perot states that 4 out of the 5 members that are currently on the ZBA started as alternates. So 4 out of the 5 people that are currently sitting on the ZBA started as alternates. That is how people get the experience that they need in order to properly fill a voting seat on the ZBA. That is why we have alternate seats on the ZBA. So that when somebody's interested in getting on the ZBA, they could become an alternate. They spend 1, 2, 3, 4 years as an alternate to learn the intricacies of the ZBA. And then when somebody steps down from the ZBA, we have somebody that's prepared to step in and hit the ground running on day one. We fill the alternate seat, and that's how the ZBA process works. As far as the comments on one candidate being the most qualified, to Jason's point, when I was watching the meeting, it is clear that the 2 incumbents are reappointed, and when Jason made that comment, he was discussing the alternates. We did receive an email from Ashley Davies, the person that we're talking about, and I just want to read from her email. This is her email. I quote, "Although I appreciate some very complimentary things that the interviewer said about me, about my qualifications and my service to the town, I did not agree with the use of my membership on the Master Plan Implementation Committee as a reason to preclude me from consideration." And this is important. "Despite that I was the," in her quotes, "most qualified for the alternate seat. end quote. That's from Ashley Davies. She understood that the comment that Jason made was in regards to the pool of alternates, not the entire pool of candidates. So I think that's important for people to understand. Ashley Davies, the candidate herself, understood that. So if everybody else is confused about it, just so there's clarity there. She understood it. The comment was about the alternate pool, not about the entire pool itself. On her remarks about the membership in the Master Plan Implementation Committee, I actually do agree with her. I think that using that as a reason to disqualify her was not right. I don't think that should have been the reason to disqualify her. I think she is right. It's not anybody's position to tell somebody what they can and cannot handle. I do have concerns about her for other reasons. We have received a lot of comments from people regarding conflicts of interest. We heard from a lot of people about conflicts of interest with another committee, with another attorney involved in the Bartlett Street stop. A lot of people complained about conflict of interest. They were using that as a reason to question and opinions and decisions that were being made. Some people have been making conflict of interest complaints about the election, in which I think are just hogwash, but that's just my personal opinion. It doesn't take away the fact that residents have expressed concerns about conflicts of interest. Ashley Davies is an attorney, and just by that fact alone, she has a conflict of interest according to the standards that have been applied to other people that are attorneys. So, you know, I could see that being a reason not to appoint her to the ZBA, because I would not want to see Ashley Davies get into a position where she has to make a decision that's difficult or controversial, and then have people say, well, she can't make that decision because of conflict of interest, because that has been done already in the past, not in the distant past, like recently. So I just wanted to state that. As far as the petitions that we got two petitions. They're different. The petitions have different wording. There's one petition that we got that had 68 signatures, and there's another petition that has 83 signatures. So just so you know, I think the intent of both the petitions is the same, but they're different. The wording is different. The wording on the one with 83 signatures is very clear. The wording on the one with 68 leaves a lot to be desired. In any case, you combine those two together, that's 151 signatures. We live in a town of 15,000 people. 151 signatures is 1% of the population. So, I mean, it's the petitions are helpful. They were used in consideration. But there's 99% of the rest of the town that we need to take into account when we make these decisions. So I think that's important. And then we received emails about the ZBA appointments from 14 people. There was 14 unique people that sent us emails about that I have seen that came in about the ZBA. And I just want to address a couple things that are from the interviews. And I'll just read from the emails. This is one that we got. Obviously, the petition that residents signed asking the new residents be appointed to the board fell on deaf ears. Instead, they chose to recommend the incumbents who have been on the board for decades and have little to no experience compared to the new applicants that were being interviewed. Now, Fran Backstrom's been on the board since 2012, on the ZBA since 2012. So she has not been on the board on the ZBA for decades. She hasn't even been on it for 1 decade. So to say that they've both been on for decades, it's just wrong. And then they have little to no experience compared to new applicants that were being interviewed. So they've served on the board for decades, but they have no experience, relevant experience. Like that just doesn't make it, that's impossible. Fran has almost 9 years of experience, relevant experience, and Mark has 21 years of relevant experience. The candidates, on the other hand, who have not served on the ZBA at all, are the ones with no relevant experience. They may have educational backgrounds, they may have things outside of the ZBA, but you can't say the people that have been on the board for decades have no experience and the people that have never been on the ZBA have experience. Like it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the emails are more of the same. You know, the decades of experience, or people really grasp on that Mark Rutan fixed his house, and that's one of the qualifications that he listed. He's been on the ZBA for 21 years. I think that should be enough experience. I don't like it. It just seems that there was a disconnect there between what constitutes experience and what doesn't. I have other things, but I'll for the sake of time, I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Scott, did you have anything you'd like to add at this point?
Yeah, so one of the things I struggled through this whole process is input. And I guess in my mind, I characterized or categorized, input in kind of 3 different levels, if you will. We had direct input from the candidates, their applications, their resumes, their interviews, direct, their words, from them. We then had indirect input before the interview process ever started, right? Throughout the interview week and immediately preceding this meeting, right? Indirect input from people supporting or not supporting different candidates. And that's a bucket of information that where to put that might be grounds for additional discussion. And then all this is within the context of the overall background environment, the political context of what's happening in town, not just associated with the Zoning Board of Appeals. So that represents another area of input that I quite frankly would not like to have to consider, but that does influence what might happen on this particular set of appointments. So to that effect, and maybe Tim, you might be able to help with this, in prior interviews for different boards and committees, were there ever a level of indirect input like that you had to contend with, or somehow not contend with, assess what its influence, either positively or negatively, would be on a particular set of candidates?
You put that in some context, I guess.
Yeah. So for example, any other interviews? Did you get emails, petitions, or anything before the interviews ever occurred, demanding what should be done?
The interviews for the Master Plan Implementation Committee were people weighed in pretty heavily on those as well.
That's probably our most recent, right, example of anything that might have had some opinions.
Yes. Yeah, but for the most part, we hear from one or two people maybe, and that's it.
Yeah. And so, to an extent that, that was some indirect input that came, directly to the appointments, but in my categorization, right? Not from the candidates themselves. A community organization right, that went out and solicited signatures from residents and wrapped that in their, you know, their branding, right? You know, we received a petition from a particular organization, not from an individual resident, but an organization representing some residents. So to the extent that I took that into consideration, right, along with other input from residents and either supporting or not supporting certain candidates. So in my mind, you know, in going through the process, I tried to place the most weight, if you will, on that direct information from the candidates themselves. I'll be honest, I'm influenced by that indirect information, and I'm probably influenced by that contextual environmental information of the other things that are going on in town. The sum total of that, though, you know, is what was used to make the recommendations that we made last week. But you know, to Julianne's point, you know, was there a rubric? Was there a scar? Well, you know, none of the questions had right answers that, you know, you would score the candidate because they answered a question, you know, with an intended answer. I mean, they were informational, as Jason said. So I think the characterization or of a process was probably more of ranking, and you saw that in our deliberation, right? Where, given the importance of the position of a member on the ZBA, we ranked the experience of the continuing appointments of Fran and Mark, you know, as a higher rank, a higher level, and then amongst the remaining candidates for the position of alternate, there was some relative ranking done there. So I think to the extent that they're a rubric or a scoring, I think you're really looking at relative ranking, and that ranking was reflected in our deliberations that we made on Wednesday.
Thank you, Scott. I probably have a number of things to walk through and address. So let me begin at the beginning. We did receive petitions and a couple of submissions of that petition content. Tim has it at 151. I've got it at 147. So plus or minus. I did note that there appeared to be one that I noticed, which was a duplicate, the same person on there twice. I assume that was really just an accident. Petition presented itself as being representative across the town from many different people, many different neighborhoods and everything. And on the surface, that arguably is true. You do have a number of different streets and individuals represented, but if you start looking at some of them and start looking at the locus of where those occur, you find that there's obviously quite a number of them in the Bartlett Street area: Hemlock, Laurel, Blueberry, Stirrup Brook, Jenkins, Weber, Bartlett, Ridge, Collins, which are interconnected through there as well. And then you've got some over in the Tall Pines neighborhood, which arguably that's in the vicinity of Bartlett. You can choose to include those or not. Additionally, you have some from the Buck Hill Road area on the west side of town, and you have a number of them from the Coolidge Circle neighborhoods: Stone, Patrick, Coolidge, Scott, Cherlin, Newton, accumulated here. So if you break these down and look at some of these accumulations, what you find is that something on the order of 55 to 60% of them come from those three particular areas: Bartlett Street, Coolidge, and Buck Hill, which have been the three sites of contentious issues with relating to land use. And then, kind of curiously, you have quite an outlier on Fay Lane and Valentine, which also contribute and bring that total. If you add in Fay Lane to the other three, you come up with basically a count representing about 70, 72% of the total number of signatures. So kudos to the Bay Lane resident who canvassed the neighborhood and obtained a bunch of signatures from their neighbors. The remainder is a scattering across various neighborhoods and towns, representing something on the order of between 20 and 25% of the total number of signatures. So while it's represented as being cross-town, I looking at this and looking at some of the concentrations, I think you do find that there's a preponderance of this sentiment coming from the three particular areas in town that have kind of been under fire with respect to issues relating to land use and concerns with the ZBA. Find my other list. Okay. The comparison and qualifications. You know, based on my own lengthy service in town, I've had the opportunity to observe the incumbents in various boards and committees over that period of time, on the school committee, on the planning board, on ZBA, on financial planning and appropriations committees. It's not been unusual for somebody to be long-serving and certainly recognize that the knowledge and experience those people develop are as important qualifications as any qualifications are for being able to serve on that board. You could argue that the strongest qualification for serving on the ZBA is having served on the ZBA. And I value that service, and I don't derate it or discount it. So that was a significant factor for me. If we had incumbent members who chose not to seek appointment and we had empty seats and we needed to fill those seats, that's a different consideration for me, but that wasn't the circumstance in this particular case. There was a lot of focus in some of the comments we received about the fact that Ashley Davies and Susie Suzuka hold law degrees and have worked previously in or currently in real estate or land planning areas. Certainly valuable qualifications. I don't disagree with that. It was also mentioned that our member of the ZBA who assisted us in the interviews, Paul Tagliaferri, who serves as the clerk on the ZBA, he was there to provide information. And in each case, the applicant asked for you know, his opinion about what was valuable in order to serve on the ZBA. And one of the things he mentioned was that it was, you know, it was an advantage, or it was a benefit, or it was helpful to have a law degree in order to understand and navigate the legal aspects of the job. I don't disagree with that, but I also didn't take his comments to be suggesting that that credential was overriding over any other qualification or concern that the applicants or the incumbents might have. And so where some people, I think, feel that that law degree or that experience is overriding, I don't agree with that position. I kind of value the experience of service on the committee as prevailing in that case. What else do I have here? Yeah, it's been a concern. In my deliberation, I mentioned something about the workload in talking about Ashley, the fact that she serves on open space and that she's appointed to the Master Plan Implementation Committee, and that the ZBA would be an additional item to have to grapple with. I probably regret phrasing it the way I did, but it was less about, I mean, certainly there's been the suggestion in some of these emails that it was a, you know, in some sense derogatory or sexist observation. And what I can tell you is that if Ashley Davies was the orthopedic surgeon and John Wickstead was the holder of a law degree with work in land planning, I would have made exactly the same observation about John Wickstead, because my concern was the fact that you had service on 3 committees, all of which were in some sense policy making or decision making at various levels relating to land use and zoning. There's been also the observation that Fran Backstrand, the incumbent on the ZBA, also serves on Master Plan Implementation Committee. And at least one of the distinctions here is that Master Plan Implementation Committee, I believe, is the second of two committee seats that Fran holds. And she was the Master Plan Steering Committee Chair while serving on ZBA. Her appointment to Master Plan Implementation Committee is in part a bridging opportunity from steering to implementation, taking advantage of her experience. I'll point out that for the Implementation Committee, you have some of those members appointed to 1, 2, or 3 year terms. Fran's only appointed to a 1 year term. So it wasn't the case that we were looking to install her for a long period of time in that role. There's also been a helpful email from one person who listed all the other people who hold multiple 3 or 4 committee seats. We can discount the select persons that were listed, Julianne Hirsch and Tim Kalin. The fact is that as a member of the Board of Selectmen, you're a liaison or a participating committee member to a number of other boards and committees. I think each of us holds something like 9 assignments in that regard. So the fact that some of those happen to be participating members is kind of irrelevant because somebody on the board is going to be doing that. As a counterexample, you have Millie Milton, who sits on 4 different boards and is appointed by 4 different authorities. She's elected to the planning board by the voters. She's designated by the planning board as their representative on Community Preservation Committee. The Board of Selectmen appointed her to the Historic District Commission, and the Historic District Commission made her their representative on Master Plan Implementation Committee. So there's somebody who's sitting on 4 seats, and it's kind of like not through any plan or any single authority that's put them in that position. Anyway, I think I guess the point in that regard that I want to make is we've had some amount of criticism about appointing people to multiple seats. And in the back of my mind, when I was looking at Ashley potentially taking a 3rd seat in what was a pretty closely correlated set of committees, the fact that we had another candidate with, I wouldn't say superior credentials, but I would say similar credentials in law and real estate, led me to prefer that other person in this role to give somebody else an opportunity. In the interview with Ashley, I think it was also clear, I did ask her about it because of this reason, and I think she was very clear in saying that the work of the Master Plan Steering Committee, of which she was a participant, was important to her, and she felt it was very important to also participate in the Master Plan Implementation Committee and conduct that work. So I did feel it was a better focus at this time for her skills, and that if the choice is between putting her in a 3rd committee seat versus taking somebody with similar credentials and who isn't sitting in a related committee or similar committee seat elsewhere, and giving them that person an opportunity to participate, then that was the way I leaned on that. I'm not sure that there's much else here that needs to be commented on that hasn't already been commented on. Anyway, that's the stance that I have. I would like to say that I think there's been a lot of unrestrained comment going on in social media with regard to this process. I'm fine, I can take the criticism, but I think some of the candidates who have been the targets of some of these comments It hasn't been appropriate. It hasn't been the right way to approach conversation. If you have concerns or you have a preference for another candidate, I think there's a better quality of conversation that could be going on. And so I think that there's some improvement that could be done there. I think it's kind of notable. I don't know if it's notable, but I was anticipating a lot of people lining up with their hands raised during public comment when I called for people who wanted to speak about the ZBA appointments, and instead there were none. So I assume they feel they've had their say through their email submissions, and this is the segment of our meeting now where we're deliberating on those recommendations that were made by Scott and I to the board. And I'll throw it back to committee members if they have any other thoughts or any other concerns that they want to express now. Julianne?
So obviously this is a very difficult conversation to have because we have to talk about our friends and people we know in town who we highly respect. We had an extraordinary talent pool apply for these positions, and I just want to state my viewpoint because it's going to be reflected in how I vote. I've said it before, I did not say it as articulately as someone who emailed us, so I am going to read part of an email that we received, and it's about reappointing members to committees. It is often enough that it's caused some questions in town. And this person wrote, the obvious problem with being in these positions for so long is that new talent isn't grown or supported. More volunteers won't come forward for anything from all these different disciplines, skill sets, and varying backgrounds. The rotation of board members is a way to communicate these concerns to the town, progress, and grow. And, thank you to that person who wrote that. I hardly agree with it, and that's the prime reason of why I'm going to vote, though I'm going to vote. So thank you for letting me speak one more time.
Sure, no problem. Thank you, Julianne. Tim, any additional comments or observations?
No, thank you.
Okay. Scott, any further observations?
No, thank you.
Okay. In that case, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to reappoint Mark Tan to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a 3-year term as recommended by the interview subcommittee.
Second?
Moved by Scott Rogers, seconded by Tim Kalin. This is a roll call vote. Scott Rogers?
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch?
No.
Tim Kalin?
Aye.
And I, Jason Perot, vote aye. Do I have another motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to reappoint Fran Baxter to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a 3-year term as recommended by the interview subcommittee.
Second?
Moved by Scott Rogers, seconded by Tim Kalin. Roll call vote. Scott Rogers?
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch?
No.
Tim Kalin?
Aye.
And I, Jason Perot, vote aye. Carries 3-1. And do I have another motion?
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to approve Suzanne Cislika as an alternate member to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a 3-year term as recommended by the interview subcommittee.
Second?
Moved by Scott Rogers, seconded by Tim Kalin. Roll call vote. Scott Rogers?
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch?
Yes.
Tim Kalin?
Aye.
And I, Jason Perot, vote aye. Carries 3-1.
Four. Carries 4, Jason. It was unanimous.
Geez, I'm sorry. Sorry, Julianne. I was in the 3-1 mindset here. Appointment of Susie Cislika carries 4 in favor. Yes, unanimously. My mistake. And Chief, can we now bring Leslie Rattan back in? Hello, Leslie, welcome back.
Hi, I missed you guys.
Next up is the appointment to the Youth Commission. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to appoint Jennifer Lipton O'Connor to the Youth Commission for a 3-year term as recommended by the interview subcommittee.
And do I have a second? Moved by Tim Kalin, seconded by Leslie Rattan. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Scott Rogers.
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch.
Yes.
Leslie Rattan.
Yes.
Tim Kalin.
Aye.
And I, Jason Perot, vote aye. Carries 5 unanimous. And next is appointment to the Community Affairs Committee. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to appoint Jennifer Kenny to the Community Affairs Committee for a 3-year term as recommended by the interview subcommittee.
Second.
Moved by Leslie Rattan, seconded by Tim Kalin. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Scott Rogers.
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch.
Aye.
Leslie Rattan.
Aye.
Tim Kalin.
Aye.
And I, Jason Perot, vote aye. Carries unanimously. Next up on our agenda is the reappointments to boards, committees, and commissions. These are appointments for which the incumbents were seeking to be reappointed and for which there were no new applicants that required interviews or decision whether to change. So do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move the board vote to reappoint those individuals who appear on the 2021 reappointment list to the corresponding boards, committees, and commissions.
Second.
Moved by Julianne Hirsch, seconded by Scott Rogers. Any discussion?
Just a quick note, Mr. Chair, is that
Sure.
we continue to have about 20 vacancies on boards and committees, so still opportunity for applicants to fill those vacancies.
Thank you, Scott. Roll call vote. Scott Rogers.
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch.
Yeah, aye.
Leslie Rattan.
Aye.
Tim Kalin.
Aye.
And I, Jason Perot, vote aye. Carries unanimously. Next is the assignment of town meeting warrant articles and vote on town meeting warrant article recommendations by the board. In your packets, you have essentially a spreadsheet that shows the warrant articles listed in summary form, indicating who the motion is made by and also indicating which boards or committees make recommendations. The first thing we'll do is assignment of the motions to be made by the Board of Selectmen. There's some number of these. We can just go through them quickly.
Excuse me.
The first one is, I'm sorry, Leslie, yes?
Yeah, sorry. I had counted them up there. I think 21, which means we should pick 4, I guess. Is that how you want to do it?
That sounds fine, yeah. That sounds like it would be fine. So,
Okay.
in fact, well, let's go through the first page. There are 5 slots here. We can take those. Appoint deputy moderator. Tim?
Mr. Chair, I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Oh, yes.
Since never mind. I answered my own question in my head.
Yes, would you like to appoint the deputy moderator, Tim?
I would love to. Yes, thank you.
Very good. I'll note that there's a possibility, it's not fully detailed yet, but there's a possibility some of these articles will be combined into a consent agenda for non-contentious articles. So depending on how that shakes out, there may not be a need for someone to make a particular motion. Compensating balance agreement.
I'll take it.
Julianne. Prior year's bills, it looks like we have a notation here, article to be passed over. Is that right? We still make the motion, John? I'm sorry, I can't hear you, John. You're muted.
First time I've ever muted myself in a selectmen's meeting, but you guys were going for a while, so I didn't want to accidentally sneeze in the background. Prior year bills, you'd make the motion, the motion would be to pass over. So there would still be a motion unless that would be one of the articles which would be potentially part of a consent agenda. But
Okay, thank you, John, for the clarification. So we'll still need a designee to do this one. Scott, do you want to take that one?
That's fine.
Okay. Town budget, I will be happy to do that one. We have the water sewer solid waste enterprise. Leslie? Moving to the next page, Article 9, revolving funds authorization.
I'll take it.
Okay, Julianne. And Appropriations Committee Reserve Fund, Tim?
Yeah. The number is that, Jason?
That's number 10 for you, Tim. Thank you. We now have items 11 through 22, which are, well, a number of these are capital plan items.
You want one person to handle 11 through 19? Or is that, or do you want to distribute?
You know what? I'm perfectly fine with that, Scott, if you're raising your hand to handle essentially the capital items.
Sure.
Okay. There's no requirement that these need to be very evenly distributed, and in consideration of Scott Rogers' liaisonship to the Financial Planning Committee, which
There's some infinity there.
capital planning items, pop all those in. That takes us 11 through 19, and Scott, I'd say your work is done for the evening. Consolidated personal bylaw, I'll take that one. Stormwater management and land disturbance bylaw.
I'll take that.
Julianne, okay. And Northborough wetlands bylaw, Leslie?
What number is that, Jason? That's cut off on my screen.
Oh, sorry. So I took number 20, Julianne took 21, and you have 22, Leslie.
Okay.
Which brings us around to just two more. Property tax exemption for Gold Star parents. I'm going to take that one. And then we have compression brake prohibition bylaw. Leslie, okay?
What number is that, Jason? Again,
That's 39.
39. Okay.
Yep. So that completes our assignments to make motions at town meeting, and tremendous thanks to Scott Rogers for doing all the talking. Next
Love
up
them
on this same list, in the recommendations column, you'll see highlighted in green the warrant articles that the Board of Selectmen will offer a recommendation for. I think there's a total of 5 of these. On the first page, we have town budget, recommendation for the town budget. And this is a voting motion here in our meeting to make that recommendation. So do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to recommend approval of Article 4, town budget at town meeting.
Second?
Moved by Tim Kalin, seconded by Leslie Rattan. Any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Scott Rogers.
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch.
Aye.
Leslie Rattan.
Aye.
Tim Kalin.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. Next up is Article 5, Water, Sewer, and Solid Waste Enterprise Funds, recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move the board vote to recommend approval of Article 5, Water, Sewer, and Solid Waste Enterprise Funds at town meeting.
Second?
And I had motion by Julianne Hirsch, second by Scott Rogers. Roll call vote. Scott Rogers.
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch.
Yes. Aye.
Leslie Rattan.
Aye.
Tim Kalin.
Aye.
And I, Jason Perot, vote aye. Unanimous recommendation. Next up is Article 6, Northborough K-8 schools budget. Do I have a motion?
I move the board vote to recommend approval of Article 6, Northborough K-8 schools budget at town meeting.
Second.
Moved by Leslie Rutan, seconded by Tim Kalen. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Scott Rogers.
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch.
Aye.
Leslie Rutan.
Aye.
Tim Kalen.
Aye.
And I, Jason Perot, vote aye. Carries unanimously. We have it here marked that we would offer a recommendation for the Northborough Southborough Regional School District budget. Typically, I'm not sure we normally do this, but in this case, we certainly did it last year, and I think it is a nice acknowledgement of the working relationship that the town and the school administration has to, to collaborate in understanding the issues each one faces and to arrive at a budget solution that each one can bring forward to town meeting. So from that standpoint, I would ask for a motion. Leslie?
Yeah, I just want to comment too. I do agree with you. If we did it last year, I think it's a great idea to continue doing that as opposed to why would we not do it again. I think that John has a wonderful relationship with Greg Martineau, and they work closely together. And I think it's a validating kind of a thing in terms of collaboration and cooperation. Okay, I move the board vote to recommend approval of Article 7, Northborough Southborough Regional School District Budget at town meeting.
Second.
Moved by Leslie Rutan, seconded by Scott Rogers. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Scott Rogers.
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch.
Aye.
Leslie Rutan.
Aye.
Tim Kalen.
Aye.
And I, Jason Perot, vote aye. Carries unanimously. This brings us all the way to the last page. Article 39, Compression Brake Prohibition Bylaw. Recommendation by the Board of Selectmen. This is a general bylaw, John?
Yes.
Yep. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, is it Article 39?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I move the board vote to recommend approval of Article 39, Compression Brake Prohibition Law at town meeting.
Second.
Moved by Julianne Hirsch, seconded by Scott Rogers. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Scott Rogers.
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch.
Aye.
Leslie Rutan.
Aye.
Tim Kalen.
Aye.
And I, Jason Perot, vote aye. I would like to ask the committee to consider Article 38, property tax exemption for Gold Star parents. This is a proposal. The presenter is Justin Souza, the Veterans Agent. It's a motion by the Board of Selectmen, that's us. And I would ask the board whether they want to offer a recommendation on that article.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The sentiment of the board seems to be to offer a recommendation. Do I have a motion? I don't think we had a prepared motion for this, but.
Mr. Chair. Oh, no, go Julianne.
Oh, okay. I move the board vote to recommend approval of Article 38, Gold Star Boulevard,
Property, Gold Star Boulevard, property tax exemption for Gold Star parents.
Right. I so move.
Very good.
Second.
Moved by Julianne Hirsch, seconded by Scott Rogers. This is a roll call vote. Scott Rogers.
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch.
Aye.
Leslie Rutan.
Aye.
Tim Kalen.
Aye.
And I, Jason Perot, vote aye. It carries unanimously. I believe that is the extent of what we need to deal with for our motions and our recommendations at town meeting. Complete. Next item of business, execution of cemetery deeds 1114 and 1115.
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to execute cemetery deeds 1114 and 1115.
Second.
Moved by Scott Rogers, seconded by Tim Kalen. Roll call vote. Scott Rogers.
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch.
Aye.
Leslie Rutan.
Aye.
Tim Kalen.
Aye.
And I, Jason Perot, vote aye. Carries unanimously. John, any other business to come before the board?
No other business this evening.
Very good. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Chairman.
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Julianne.
Okay.
I was
I-
actually, I would like to give Tim the opportunity to make the motion.
Oh, okay, yes, you're right.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Tim Kalen, seconded by Leslie Rutan. This is a roll call vote. Scott Rogers,
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch,
Aye.
Leslie Rutan.
Aye.
I'll vote aye, and Tim Kalen.
Aye.
Very good. Meeting is adjourned. I want to thank board members and staff members this evening for your time here tonight. Appreciate it. We are concluded. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Take care, everyone.